so-called people that are looking. I had a beat off. I felt really good almost after taking it.
Am I getting through to you?
I felt really good almost after taking it. I had a beat off. I felt really good almost after taking it. They're genius. They get it better than these guys that are looking at stuff. I had a beat off.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
I had a beat off.
Yosemite.
10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes later, they say, remember the first question? Not the first, but the 10th question?
I never thought anybody could forget so much so fast without a severe blow to the head.
I had a beat off.
Just looking around here, I can tell you're a genuinely dirty person.
It's good to be the king.
I never thought anybody could forget so much so fast without a severe blow to the head.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
That's better than a brick because you can't throw a brick. It's too heavy.
I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but two things right now. Jack and shit. Jack left town.
They're not allowed to be offensive, unfortunately. And they roll out. And they roll out. And they roll out. They don't like the gas. They just explode.
I don't read, obviously.
They just explode. Computer board. Computer board. Computer board.
Going on there, we got a microphone. Hey, microphone. There it is. Okay, good grief. My microphone wasn't working. Hold on, now I gotta shut my door and all this. It was fine. It's not a problem. I'll be right back. I may have to run out and get snacks at some point during this because I have a feeling this is gonna be a long haul experience. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. And of course we have the dueling town halls tonight. Here's my plan for the evening, folks. I suggest you watch the Biden one without commentary, or put it on your television, or DVR it and watch it later in its entirety, uninterrupted by foolishness, and then watch me dissect the moron in chief. I do not have snacks ready. I was running around doing stuff, and I completely, I got behind it on that. So, like, while everybody's gathering here, hold on. I'm going to shift to this, if it works. Come on, you. There we go. And I love when my green screen up here where you can see the ceiling light effect in the top. I need to stretch this guy out. This is not quality programming. I don't understand. I know no one cares but me, but it does matter on its own. Can you stretch that out? Hi, there you go. So somebody was asking in the chat room about the history of Woolah, which is, for those of you that missed it or don't know, was a mispronunciation by Trump of voila. Yes, there's some audio behind me. That's the, sorry, I have...
Thanks so much for joining us. President Trump's town hall in Miami, moderated by Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie, is next on NBC News Now.
Yeah, so here we go. This is us. Oh, we're going to commercial so the president can pee. And then I'm not playing their ads on my stuff. Honestly, I gotta run this in the background and mute it or something like that, and then I'll jump back. This is a special presentation of today. Ugh. Oh my God, what are they playing?
Ill with coronavirus.
I'm feeling great. I don't know about you. How's everyone feeling?
With tonight's debate canceled, the president faces Our Questions Live. And here's from voters about their concerns in the battleground state of Florida.
Yeah, you assholes couldn't air this later or tomorrow or at a different time so it's not competing directly? What a dick move.
Case.
My goal is to fight for you and fight for your family.
That's my goal. I mean, you know, I'm not going to actually do it, but...
Live from the Perez Art Museum in Miami, here's Savannah Guthrie.
Look at that, it's outside.
Evening, it's good to have you with us and welcome to Miami.
What time's the DJ show up?
With President Donald Trump, and we want to say right off the top, this is not how things were supposed to go tonight. This was supposed to be a town hall debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. But after the president contracted COVID, the debate commission announced it would have to be a virtual debate because of health concerns. The president then said he would not participate in a virtual debate. At that point, Joe Biden scheduled a town hall tonight in Pennsylvania on another network, and now the president is doing the same, his own town hall with the same venue, format, and time as NBC's town hall with Joe Biden last week. So the two candidates go head-to-head tonight.
First of all, stop playing the music and stop pretending this is normal.
Not face-to-face, each in a key battleground state. And tonight, the president will be taking questions from voters here in Miami, who we should mention are socially distanced and they're wearing masks. And I should say, this audience looks a bit like America. It's divided. Some here voted for the president in 2016 and plan to again. Some support Joe Biden, and some say they are truly undecided. We're going to get
those people are called maniacs.
Mix of questions on a range of topics, and we're going to get to those questions in a moment. But first, with all that ado, welcome, Mr. President, and thank you for being here.
That was very well stated, I have to say. Good job.
Thank you. We're glad you're here. We're glad you're well. We send our best to the First Lady and to Barron.
Thank you.
Do you have any remaining symptoms from COVID?
Nothing whatsoever. I'm great. I feel good. I was in North Carolina today and did a big rally. We had a tremendous turnout, and just...
Other than coughing up a chunk of my lung during the New York Economic Club Zoom call, yeah, no, I'm all awesome.
Feel really good. Florida, Pennsylvania, we're all over the place. It's been great.
You received some treatments.
Because that's what you want to do is jump all over the world like after you've recovered from an illness because you don't have any choice because your campaign has no money.
Are generally reserved for those with the most severe form of the disease.
And the most money.
Yeah.
How severe were your symptoms? In particular, did you have pneumonia?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel strong. I had a little bit of a temperature. The doctors at the White House are fantastic, as you can imagine, and they really didn't want to take a chance. And they said, "Let's go to the hospital." I said, "That's okay. I'm going to, respond to what you say." And we went over to Walter Reed, where you have tremendous professionals. They gave me Regeneron and.
No, they didn't. It's a company.
Desivir, both. And all I know is I felt good the following day. I felt really good.
Did the doctors ever tell you that they saw pneumonia on your lung scans?
No, but they said the lungs are, a little bit different, a little bit perhaps infected. And
a little bit different, a little bit perhaps infected. I don't know if I can take this much science right out of the gate.
Infected with?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't do too much asking. I really felt good. I didn't have much of a problem with the lungs. I did have a little bit of a temperature. Obviously, I felt there was something missing, and then I tested.
Yeah, there was a screw loose, I think, was the problem.
You know, I tested positive.
Well, let's talk about testing because there's a little bit of I guess, confusion about this, and I think we can clear it up.
Yeah, and there shouldn't be.
Your first positive test was Thursday, October 1st, okay? When we...
No, not okay. Don't take his word for it. Ask him.
Your last negative test? When did you last remember having a negative test?
Well, I test quite a bit, and I can tell you that before the debate, which I thought it was a very good debate, and I felt fantastically. I had no problem before.
Did you test the day of the debate?
I don't know. I don't even remember. I test all the time.
Okay, you were supposed to have a test at the actual debate when they arrived. They arrived late. He doesn't remember if he was tested that day. It was actually the rule coming in. They were using the honor system that everybody was tested. So first lie right out of the gate, total bullshit.
But I can tell you this, after the debate, like I guess a day or so, I think it was Thursday evening, maybe even late Thursday evening.
Yeah, that's when you admitted it. After you had gotten a test, then you went on Hannity and lied about it, then you announced it on Twitter.
I tested positive. That's when I first found out about
Back
it.
to the debate, because the debate commission's rules, it was the honor system, would be that you would come with a negative test. You say you don't know if you got a test on the day of the debate?
I had no problem. Again, the doctors do it. I don't ask them. I test all the time. And they,
did you take a test, though, on the day of the debate?
You know, if you ask the doctor, they'll give you a perfect answer.
Yeah.
But they take a test, and I leave, and I go about my business.
Did you take a test on the day of the debate, I guess, is the bottom line?
I probably did, and I took a test the day before and the day before, and I was always in great shape. And I was in great shape for the debate. And it was only after the debate, like a period of time after the debate.
Yeah, we know when your positive test is, dummy. We already know that part. We've all been participating in life. The part that you're lying about is the part we have in it. But thanks for getting yourself on the hook for obviously not having a test the day of the debate when you were supposed to. But I mean, honestly, what kind of an asshole debate commission uses the honor system with Donald Trump?
That I said, that's interesting, and they took a test and it tested positive.
So just to button it up, do you take a test every single day?
No, but I take a lot of tests.
Okay, and you don't know if you took a test the day of the debate?
Possibly I did, possibly I didn't. But you know, the doctor is very accurate information, and it's not only that doctor, it's many doctors. The one thing, if you're president, you have a lot of doctors you're surrounded by. But I was in great shape for the...
No, most presidents aren't surrounded by doctors. So what the hell is wrong with you since your mini strokes that it's normal for you to be surrounded by doctors, I think is the next question.
Debate, and sometime after the debate, I tested positive.
Let's talk about...
That's when they decided to let's go.
Okay, good. I hopefully provided some clarity for folks. Let's talk...
No, that was a shit fest.
About the event that was held at the White House on the Saturday before you tested positive. Subsequent to that, 13 people connected to that event tested positive. There was an outdoor reception. You've seen the pictures. There was an indoor reception. People were not wearing masks. My question to you is...
Ouch. Next thing they're going to be showing the Sergei Kislyak laughing about the FBI pictures.
At this point in the pandemic, knowing what we know, shouldn't you have known better? Shouldn't the White House know better than to hold an event like that?
Well, they do a lot of testing in the White House. They test everybody, including me, but they test everybody. And something happened, but as far as...
Yeah, the test is shit.
Mask is concerned, I'm good with masks. I'm okay with masks. I tell people wear masks. But just the other day, they came out with a statement that 85% of the people that wear masks catch it. So, you know,
they
this
didn't
is
say
a
that. I
very
know
tricky...
No.
That's what I heard, and that's what I saw. And
yeah, just because you perceive... That's like a guy going, I have this friend, and whenever he goes across the parking lot, he gets really small. I don't know how he does it. It's like a miracle. And then when he comes back over to me, he's like his normal height again. It's crazy.
Regardless, but everybody's tested, and they're tested often. And I also knew that, hey, I'm president. I have to see people. I can't be in a basement. I can't be in a room. I have to be out.
Who gives a shit about you? Then be out there. But the rest of the people should be wearing masks. What the hell does that have to do anything? But it's a macho,
You can see people with
macho.
a mask, though, right?
I can, but people with masks are catching it all the time. I mean, if you look at the governor of
Did
Virginia.
you see the lady, by the way, see this lady nodding about, yeah, oh, totally. I'm guessing she's a Trump supporter. She's got a red mask on. She's nodding with him a bunch. We'll see when they get around to the questions or whatever. But she's queuing in on him, no pun intended, entirely.
He was known for a mask. If you look at Tom Tillis, a great guy, he always had a mask, and they caught it.
Well, there are pictures of Tom Tillis actually with one of Judge Barrett's kids not wearing a mask. But, Chris Christie.
Yeah, the time he didn't wear, he wore a mask a lot. Then he didn't wear a mask, and then he caught it. See how oh God.
He was part of your debate prep.
Yeah.
He was, I believe it.
He's gonna, by the way, Savannah Guthrie is in for it right at this point, because the multiple questions that he's being asked right now means he's gonna call this a hit job tomorrow, that they were attacking me. They never attacked Joe Biden like this. Just get ready for that at this point. You could tell by the look in his face.
He came out tonight. He was sick, very sick. He was in the hospital for about a week.
I know
He
that.
came out tonight and said, I was wrong not to wear a mask.
Well, I mean, he has to say that. I think it's great. He's a friend of mine. He's a good guy. And
he almost died.
wrong or not wrong, you have to understand, as president, I can't be locked in a room someplace for the next year and just stay and do nothing. And every time I go into a crowd.
Why not? I mean, it sounds so nice. I mean, obviously, I don't want you to even be president next year, but if that were to happen, solitary confinement wouldn't be, is that possible? Can we do that? Is it an act of Congress? Do we have to flip the Senate? I'm just wondering.
I was with the parents of our fallen heroes. These people are the most incredible people. And they came up to me and they would hug me and they would touch me. And I'm not going to not let them do it.
Now, there was an event with the Gold Star families the day after the Supreme Court
event. A Gold
event.
Star event with the most incredible people you've ever seen.
And what I wanted to do was go to a super spreader event the day before and give the families of fallen heroes COVID-19 because I'm an egomaniacal asshole who needs attention.
I could have chosen not to talk to him or to keep everybody away. And you know what?
They would have understood because their sons and daughters served in the military, and they would have understood orders and the protection of the commander-in-chief. And then after this was all over and you allegedly won the election in your mind, you could have met with them again next year in person and had a sit down and been able to hold their hand and do all this and talked about how difficult it is and used it as a moment of understanding. But you can't because you're an asshole.
And I don't think that's probably where it was caught, but maybe it was.
I was going to say, you bring it up.
Yeah, it's the Gold Star families. They gave it to them. Friggin' Gold Star families, man. They're the ones who gave Trump COVID. It wasn't at the Amy Coney Barrett thing, even though Chris Christie and all the other senators that come, Michael Lee wasn't at the Gold Star gathering, and it was the day after. But never mind.
You brought it up yourself. I mean, are you trying to suggest that? Do you believe a grieving military family gave you COVID?
No, I don't know where it came from.
Okay.
And you don't know where it came from, and the doctors don't know where it came from. But as the president, I have to be out there. I also know...
Well, there's no one that says you can't be out there, but it's just about wearing masks and having, for example, your
But
rallies.
I know this.
Your rallies
As
don't
an
require
example,
masks.
No, I mean, let's see Kamala. She's got people now. People have it.
Kamala.
And I'm not blaming her. I'm not saying, oh, she did a terrible thing. As president, I have to be out there. I can't be in a basement. I can't be locked in a very...
Again, this is the all or nothing. This is like when you're in a relationship with someone and you're having an argument and they do something that they know is wrong. They treated you poorly. They spoke to you in a rude manner. They were a jerk. They took something of yours that they didn't ask for. They assumed they could have, food or things of yours that they could not, whatever, like normal interactions. And when you confront them about it, you go, hey, we got to talk about this. You can't do this crap anymore. What their response is, look, I'm not perfect, okay? Nobody's perfect. Okay, this is not an argument about the capability of humans to be perfect. This is about the complexities of human interaction and actually, genuine behavior and caring. The all or nothing back and forth on this. Yeah, well, I mean, the 90 minutes that Biden has will probably equal out to the hour we're going to have with this dope.
Beautiful rooms.
But that's what this is. This is nobody's perfect. You can't ask me to be perfect. They're not perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Like, asshole has nothing to do with perfection. There are things within your control that you aren't doing. That's not an act of whether or not someone is perfect.
Place in the White House. And I want to see the Gold Star families, and I want to see everybody.
Then wait a year, asshole. Meet with them again. Give them their award. Tell a story about how, we all are getting a picture now of how you're separated from your loved ones and couldn't see them when they were serving overseas. Some of us, maybe it's just a distance of 10 feet, but out of respect and love for those people, I wish we could all embrace. I wish we could all hold hands. I wish we were able to be close, but we can't. And I think we're all learning something that you guys go through when you send your loved ones off to the battlefield, not knowing if they're going to come back, not being able to touch them, hug them, spending Christmases away. The rest of the country is sort of going through that right now, and we're going through this. And what I would like to do is pray God we all get through this, and everyone stays healthy, and we all have best practices. I would like you guys to all come back to the White House next year. Or even if I am not reelected, I would like to bring you all down to Mar-a-Lago because I'm a billionaire, and meet with you in person once it's safe to do so. Seriously, how hard is that? Does that sound right to everybody? I mean, seriously. And 2 staff members on Kamala's flight tested positive, so she's stopped her travel till Sunday. She's getting multiple tests.
And I also say to people all the time, it's risky doing it. It is risky doing it. It's risky.
Yeah, risk yourself, but not everybody else, dickhead. By risking the day before, you brought the disease to the Gold Star families. Don't ask other people to take risks that you don't give a shit about.
You're right. You want to be a leader, but you also are a leader and a setter of an example. And if you're not wearing a mask when your administration is saying best practice right now is wear a mask, no, it's not foolproof.
But many people are catching it. Many people are getting this disease that was sent to us by China, and it shouldn't have been allowed to happen.
Oh God, this one. Now it's not even. I don't even know why you're asking me this shit. I don't know who ordered all these pizzas.
But many people are getting this, and I mean, nobody's being blamed. Everybody is working hard to get this thing out of our country, get it out of the world. Look at.
No, you're not. That's her point. You're not. By not wearing a mask and having these unmasked events, you're not. You actually cause the spread.
What's going on in Europe?
But I am enjoying watching him get mad. He's getting pissed now. He's red in the face. He's starting his, as is traditional for the form of bullfrog that he is, he's starting to fill his neck pouch.
Massive spikes. They've done a very good job, but now you take a look today at the UK, you take a look at Spain and France and Italy, there's tremendous spikes.
Yeah, because people are going out without masks. Because when they start to ease the standards, then they get a spike.
The rate is worse than, well, not Spain, but those other countries.
I have things right here that will tell you exactly the opposite.
Me too.
So
he brought notes.
UK is up 2,500.
By the way, at the debate, they wouldn't be able to bring cheat sheets.
Because I knew you'd be doing this. I know you very well. The UK is up 2,500%. The EU is up 722%. And the United States is down 21%.
But by number, we have more. I mean, this goes to the per capita part. Like, they had it almost completely shut down. So, again, this is like the 700%
per capita is among the highest among industrial.
And when you say per capita, there's many per capitas. It's like per capita relative to what?
Excess mortality, we're a winner.
We're a winner. In excess mortality, we're a winner.
Excess mortality. And what we've done has been amazing. And we have done an amazing job. And it's rounding the corner. And we have the vaccines coming and we have the therapies coming.
Oh, now he's just going into autopilot.
And I'll tell you what, one thing, when I got it, I had a choice, do nothing or use some of the things that we're looking at, like in this case, Regeneron. Yeah. And
Regeneron's a company.
Lilly makes something that's supposed to be incredible.
It's the same basic premise. Both of them use aborted fetal tissue.
And I think that maybe I wouldn't be doing this discussion with you right now. We have...
You mean you would have died without it?
Therapies now, and cures maybe. You can use the word cure.
You can't use the word cure.
We have therapies that are absolutely incredible.
I want to pick up on...
Yeah. Tell me about that in 7 years when your knees blow up because you develop rheumatoid arthritis because the monoclonal antibody treatment you had causes a snapback of the cytokine storm in your system.
You said we're rounding the corner.
I believe we're rounding the corner.
Now, 10% of the country approximately has had COVID. That means 80, 90%, 90%, let's do the math, is still vulnerable.
Right.
There's been some talk, including from the White House lately, that perhaps it approves of what's called herd immunity. That's where you basically just let young people and everybody get sick. You try to protect the old people and those who are sick, and hopefully it gets up to a certain level, and now we're all immune.
Yeah.
So let's just be clear about it. It also means more deaths. Do you support
Yeah, did you see the look at his face?
herd immunity as a strategy?
Oh boy.
Actually, just let people.
So, how do I say yes without saying yes?
The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself.
Oh, God. The cure cannot be worse than the disease. The solution cannot be worse than the problem. This drives me nuts. I know.
We did the right thing. We were expected to lose 2,200,000 people and maybe...
If you did nothing. Because of herd immunity.
More than that.
If you used herd immunity.
We're at 210,000 people. One person is too much. It should have never happened because of China. It happened because of China.
See that? See, this lady, she nodded on China. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you have to get that and understand that. But it shouldn't...
Do I have to get that and understand that? Do I get it and understand it?
Happened. But we were expected to lose. If you look at the original charts from original doctors who are respected by everybody, 2,200,000 people.
That was herd immunity.
And figure, though, is if you literally did nothing. The 2 million figure is if you did absolutely nothing, it would be 2 million. The question is, should the deaths be better than 200,000 when, relative to the rest of the world, we have a worse death rate?
Oh, you should have held on that. Don't back off of that. Go back to the, she nailed it, and then you gave him a off-ramp. Damn it.
North Carolina, which I love. I left.
And I need to
Pennsylvania.
Which I desperately need to win.
A big case in Michigan because that governor has a lockdown where nobody but her husband can do anything. He can go boating and do whatever he wants, but nobody else can. The fact is we're winning all these cases because it's unconstitutional.
No, you're not. And it's not unconstitutional. It's a public health hazard. It's not any more unconstitutional than telling people to evacuate during a hurricane.
What they're doing, and I think they're doing it for political reasons. But the fact is, the cure.
If you think they're going to do it for political reasons, then they're going to open up on November 4th. So don't tell me later on in this thing, which you will absolutely do, that Joe Biden is going to lock it down as soon as he gets in office.
You can't let this continue to go on with the lockdowns.
Well, most
and I believe that on November 4th. You're going to have a lot of these governors. Look at what's happening to New York. New York is a mess. They lost almost 40,000 people. They have a lockdown like you've never seen. Now they're open.
Yeah, it fixed it. That's how they did it.
Ghost town.
Let's get
and Savannah, it's very important. People are leaving New York by the thousands. And
Yeah, because there's a continuing pandemic that's going to continue into next year easily. And highly crowded places are very dangerous for people. So have we checked the people who are moving out for comorbidities, for concerns about family? Do they have older relatives? Are they moving out into the suburbs or out into lower population areas so they just don't die? This is a strategic move. They're not running scared.
Hard time ever building it up again.
It's not going to be a hard time building New York up again. I mean, we're not running out of people.
That cure, that so-called cure that you talk about, it can't be worse than the problem. The problem is a bad problem.
We've got more questions on COVID, so let's drop it for now. We were supposed to, as mentioned, be watching you on a debate stage right now.
But you chickened out and shit the bed and forfeit the debate.
We're not doing that, so let's clear up a few things from the last one. You were asked point blank to denounce white supremacy. In the moment, You didn't. You asked some follow-up questions. Who specifically? A couple of days later, on a different show, you denounced white supremacy.
No,
my question to you is,
you've done this to
why
me and
does
everybody.
it seem like
I denounce white supremacy, okay?
You did
I've
2 days
denounced
later.
white supremacy for years, but you always do it. You always start off with a question. You didn't ask Joe Biden whether or not he denounces Antifa. I watched him on the same basic show.
Antifa is an ideology that he doesn't belong to. His skin isn't Antifa.
Lester Holt, and he was asking questions like Biden was a child.
Well, so this is a little bit of a dodge.
Are you listening? I denounce white supremacy.
Okay.
What's your next question?
Do you feel, it feels sometimes you're hesitant to do so, like you wait a beat.
Here we go again. Every time, in fact, my people came, I'm sure they'll ask you the white supremacy question.
Yeah, so have it loaded up, and then make sure you do this signal.
I denounce white supremacy.
Okay.
And frankly, you want to know something? I denounce Antifa, and I denounce these people on the left
There she's nodding again.
Burning down our cities that are run by Democrats who don't know what they're doing.
While we're denouncing, let me ask you about QAnon. It is this theory that Democrats are a satanic pedophile ring and that you are the savior of that. Now, can you just once and for all state that that is completely not true and that disavow QAnon in its entirety?
I know nothing about QAnon.
I just...
I know very little. You told me, but what you tell me doesn't necessarily make it fact. I hate to say that. I know.
Oh, so it may be Savannah. Maybe you're misrepresenting QAnon, and I don't want to be unfair.
Nothing about it. I do know they are very much against pedophilia. They fight it very hard, but I know nothing about it.
They believe it is
If
a
you'd like me
satanic cult run by the deep
study the subject, I'll tell you what I do know about.
This is getting good. Like, Savannah's pissed she had to take this job.
About Antifa, and I know about the radical left, and I know how violent they are.
She's nodding again. She's a Q, by the way. Like, let's just call it what it is.
And how vicious they are, and I know how they're burning down cities run by Democrats, not run by Republicans.
Republican Senator Ben Sass said, quote, QAnon is nuts, and real leaders call conspiracy theories conspiracy theories.
He may be
Why not
right.
just say it's
Can I be
crazy and
honest?
not true?
He may be right. I just don't know about QAnon.
How do you not know about it? You were asked last time. Again, this goes to a failure of leadership. I think, I speak for myself, and I think maybe many of you, if you're thinking about this, that if you were at a debate and someone asked you about a group like the Proud Boys or something like that, and they were like, they're white supremacists, do you denounce them? And you're like, yeah, I denounce them. Because if they are what you say they are, I don't know them. If you genuinely didn't know who they were. What would happen is you would walk off stage right after that, and your chief of staff or your main, like, handlers, your body people and other people that your regular staff that you work with would know that if you were blindsided by something at a debate that might come up again or become an issue over the next couple of days, they would go, we'll do a fill in on what that was. Or you would walk up and go, who the shit are the Proud Boys? Somebody, I want to break down paper in a half an hour and I want to read it on the plane. And the same thing is true of QAnon after the question he got in the press room, and it became a story for a while. And there's no way, he's either incompetent or he's lying right now and he's playing footsie with these people.
You do know.
Which he is.
I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know.
Let me ask you another thing.
Let's waste a whole show. You start off with white supremacy. I denounce it. You start off with something else. Let's go. Keep asking me these questions.
I do have one more.
Let me just tell you what I do hear about it is they are very strongly against pedophilia, and I agree with that. I mean, I do agree with that, and I agree with it.
But there's not a
very
satanic pedophile
I have
cult
no
being run
idea.
by.
I know
You
nothing
don't
about
know
that.
Okay.
No, I don't know.
You
that.
just this week.
Savannah's just had it. Like, look at that. You don't know that? And look, now it's just becoming an argument. Okay, everybody else, you guys can go home. There's not going to be any questions, please.
You know that.
Okay, just this week
Why aren't you asking me about Antifa? Why aren't you asking me about the radical left?
Because you're
Why
volunteering
aren't you asking Joe Biden questions about why does
She would have, if you'd have shown up for the debate. You would have both gotten debate questions tonight.
Condemn Antifa? Why does he say it doesn't exist?
Because you're here before me.
No, it's so cute. Antifa.
Oh, nice condescension.
They're vicious, they're violent, they kill people, and they're burning down our cities. And they happen to be radical left.
Just this week, you retweeted to your 87 million followers a conspiracy theory that Joe Biden orchestrated to have SEAL Team 6, the Navy SEAL Team 6, killed to cover up the fake death of bin Laden. Now, why would you send a lie like that to your followers?
I don't know. This is the I live on Twitter. Twitter allows me to speak directly to people. I don't have to worry about the mainstream media because Twitter is my voice. I can get out there. I can say everything that I need to say, and it's a great tool. And then anything like, why did you retweet, a picture of a baby with a bullseye on its forehead? And like, I don't know where these things come from.
That was a retweet. That was.
Yeah, they're not automatic, asshole. Not only, and retweets are sometimes worse because if you write your own thing, people can, go back and forth. Like, did you say everything you meant to say in that because you were the impetus? But if you just grab something and post it, you're basically saying this concisely says what I would say in a longer form, or these links or this attributed story is more, is a fuller version of what I would want to say.
An opinion of somebody, and that was a retweet. I'll put it out there. People can decide for themselves. I don't take a position.
I put it out there.
Not like someone's crazy uncle who can just retweet whatever.
Yes, he is.
That was a retweet, and I do a lot of retweets. And frankly, because the media is so fake and so corrupt, if I didn't have social media, I don't call it.
Yeah, see, I don't call it Twitter. I call it social media, which is weird. Like, you didn't invent the term social media, dickhead. This is so weird. Like, he does this a lot. Hold on.
Media is so fake and so corrupt. If I didn't have social media, I don't call it Twitter, I call it social media, I wouldn't be able to get the word out. And the word is false. And you know what the word is? The word is very simple. We're building our country stronger and better than it's ever been before.
And we're building it on the faking the death of Osama bin Laden? What the shit are you talking about?
And that's what's happening, and everybody knows it.
Okay,
everybody know it, and you know it, and he knows it, and everybody knows it, and there's very good people on each side. This is the.
But the word is we're winning in a lot of states. Okay. We're winning in a lot of states.
Cool. We'll tell people to, relax about voting. They don't have to.
Okay,
you're winning. I mean, honestly, phone it in, kids. I mean, this is the message from Trump, not from me. Don't shut me down on social media. I don't call it Twitter and Facebook and Periscope and Twitch and VK and Dailymotion and YouTube and I call it social media.
I want to ask about that. That's another kind of leftover item. A lot of people have asked you, will you accept a peaceful transfer of power? You have said repeatedly, the only way we lose this election is if it is rigged. Now, that is simply not true. The fact is either candidate can lose fair and square without ballot fraud. So will you accept the results of the election?
That's the way I want it to be. But when I see thousands of ballots, right, unsolicited.
Yeah, no.
Ballots being given out by the millions, and thousands of them are dumped in dumpsters. And when you see ballots with the name Trump, military ballots from our great military, and they're dumped in garbage cans.
That is a hand.
There were 7. They all made it. They were in the wrong envelopes. They weren't in election envelopes. It is the job of the sorters there to sort the ones that are election. They were not discarded. They were set aside. Of course he knows these things, or at least maybe somebody's just not telling him this part because they like it when he's mad because he fights more, so they keep him ignorant.
We could go all night, which we won't, but we could go all night one by one, a single case, a single day. You're talking about 150 million votes. Your own FBI director says there is no evidence of widespread fraud.
Well, then he's not doing a very good job. All you have to do.
He's your dude.
Pick up the papers every day. 50,000 in Ohio, the great state of Ohio. 50,000 in another location, I think.
No.
Carolina. 500,000 applications in Virginia. No.
That was 200,000, and they were sent out by an NGO, a allegedly nonpartisan group that bought a shit list and was sending applications, not ballots, applications to dogs and dead people and cartoon characters. And, you know, obviously those people won't be filling them out and sending them in, and they won't qualify as registered. They won't show up as registered and then be able to vote.
It's a tremendous problem. But let me just tell you, they talk about the peaceful transfer, right? They spied on my campaign and they got caught. And they spied.
See her nodding again? She's doing it again. They spied on my campaign and they got caught. All right, God damn it. You guys may have seen this earlier, but I went on Twitter as much as it functionally works. Anyways. And hold on one second. These pages are very slow. The whole they spied on my campaign and we caught him cold thing. Like we know he says this a bunch or whatever, but this is what he's talking about. He's talking about the unmasking. We caught him cold. We caught the unmasking part is where we caught them unmasking, and we caught him cold. He keeps saying this over and over again. Let me scrub this down here. Not only did they not catch them cold, which means they would have caught them years ago, but they just buried this report because there's nothing there. And the other report, the Durham report, isn't coming out until after the election because they're expecting him to lose and they're just going to throw it away because it's garbage political horseshit. But when he says that they spied on my campaign, this is what he's saying. He's still saying this. Yeah. I don't know if he'll do the whole thing. We'll find out.
Heavily on my campaign, and they tried to take down a duly elected sitting president.
No, they tried to go after someone who, during their campaign, was colluding with a foreign power to manipulate the election and get themselves in office. Sorry, there are duly elected mayors. Ask the duly elected governor of Illinois, Blagojevich. Ask him how duly elected he was.
And then they talk about, will you accept a peaceful transfer?
Yes. All that was through the legal system. All of it. There wasn't a shot fired. There wasn't a punch thrown. Yes. Sorry, but even the legal part, even where they were haranguing him and going after him, win or lose, that was a peaceful protest to his power through the legal system. That was a redress of grievances.
The answer is yes, I will. But I
Okay, there you go. Then shut up.
want to be an honest election, and so does everybody else. When I see thousands of ballots dumped
And let me say, where are we going to go? River, or is he going to go with ditch? I'm going to go with river.
in a garbage can, and they happen to have my name.
Garbage can. That was so he's confusing the 7 ballots set aside that weren't in a garbage can. They were originally reported as discarded when they were simply separated from the pile, which is why they ended up being counted after all. And not all of them were for him.
Happy about that.
But just those are there is in fact no evidence of widespread fraud, and you were sowing doubt about our democracy. Our democracy.
How can you say that? You do read newspapers.
I do.
You do.
Yeah. She reads past the 3rd paragraph.
Watch the news. I know you read the news, but do you watch it?
I do.
Because
I know you read the news, but do you watch it? Have you seen, can I introduce you to a fellow named Lou Dobbs?
Hey, they're talking about ballots.
Have you watched CBN? Do you realize?
That are corrupt, that are fraudulent.
And millions that are being processed right now.
But you can win a race. Take a look at me. You can win a race by 1%.
But why are you laying the groundwork for that right now? It's like if I go play tennis with my husband and I say my ankle's hurting right now.
I don't want that to happen, Savannah. I want it to be clean.
Okay.
I really feel we're going to win. But I want this to be clean.
But
it's sort of ironic that you and them talk about the peaceful transfer when I...
Look, she's nodding again. The peaceful... yeah, they weren't peaceful. They just filed a bunch of motions and deposed witnesses. The violent act of depositions.
3.5 years fighting off...
Oh, he's pissed.
These
Welcome,
maniacs.
Scott.
And now it turns out, everything's there, that they were the ones that dealt with Russia.
Nope. Dude, nope. Gish gallop.
And it's too bad. But peaceful transfer, I absolutely want that. But ideally, I don't want to transfer because I want to win.
Yes, and I think that your words will probably reassure some folks. Let's get to our first voter. We've got Jacqueline Lugo. Now, she is, I told you this audience is truly split between y'all. You are leaning Biden. She voted for Clinton in 2016. She's registered as an independent. Jacqueline, what's your question for the president? And
he's like, oh, here comes another beauty.
Hold the mic up close and take off your mic because it's hard to hear out here.
Good evening.
How are you?
Welcome to Miami.
Thank you very much. It's beautiful.
Mr. President, if you knew COVID-19, as you told Bob Woodward in February.
As what?
As you told Bob Woodward in February, was airborne and deadlier than the flu, why did you only put in place a travel ban from China and not put in place other measures mitigating the spread of COVID-19, potentially saving tens of thousands of American lives?
Well,
Oh, okay. First of all, big hand to her. I would like to say right out of the gate, way to neuter the talking point before he gets to it. So what he's going to do is, if we hadn't started the China thing, everybody wanted me to not do it, and he probably will go to it. But the fact that she went, yeah, you did the travel ban, but why didn't you do anything else?
I did put it in very early, as you know. Joe Biden was
38 other countries.
Months behind me, and he called me xenophobic and racist and everything else because I put it in.
No, he called you xenophobic and racist because you're xenophobic and racist. And he was concerned that your xenophobia and your racism would impact how you deal with this instead of taking it seriously. And he was right, because all you did was put a ban on China, quote unquote, and then go back to golfing and rallies. He's so racist. He was like, if we just keep the dirty Chinese people out, and then the ban from for Europe, which is where most of the virus came into the United States from, happened way later, after everybody was, started recognizing that in New York.
% right. I also put it on Europe very early because so there was a lot of infection in Europe, and it's sort of an amazing question, and I appreciate the question and
why not Russia? Why never Russia?
The question, but the news doesn't get out the right answer, because I put on a travel ban far earlier than Dr. Fauci thought it was necessary, who I like, far earlier than the scientists. I was actually the only...
Yeah, she asked you, she knows about the travel ban, which was after 38 other countries, and technically 40 started on February 2nd. You started yours on January 31st. She's asking you, why didn't you do anything else? Because the virus was already in the country, and as we know now, it was spreading through Washington State particularly.
That wanted to put it on, and I did it actually against the advice of a lot of people, including Nancy Pelosi, who had no clue what she was doing, and Biden. When I put on the travel ban, I put it on in January, the end of January. When I
it didn't go into effect till February 2nd.
On the travel ban, Joe Biden and others said, this is ridiculous. You don't do that. Well, Dr. Fauci said I saved thousands and thousands of lives.
She knows about the ban. She's asking you, why didn't you do anything else?
Did you?
I was early. I was extremely early when I put on the travel ban.
Can I ask you, did your national security advisor on January 28th in the Oval Office warn you that this would be the greatest national security risk of your administration? He didn't say it, or you don't remember?
I read it someplace. Maybe Woodward said it or something. But no, he did not say that. But I knew it was a big threat. At the same time, I don't want to panic.
Still, by the way, still didn't answer the question. That lady's question was awesome. It was Savannah, watch for that shit.
I don't want to go out and say everybody's going to die. Everybody's going to.
And she's nodding again. Yeah. You don't want him going out and saying everybody is going to die. Like what? Like those are your options? Lie about the threat or run around like Chicken Little? What kind? Does he govern by coin flip?
You don't have to mislead, but you can.
No, there's not a middle ground. You have to be safe, you have to be vigilant, and you have to be smart.
You're going to like this next couple of voters. It's a mom and a daughter.
Good.
Mom, Barbara, voted for
you. Still didn't answer that lady's question.
In 2016. She's leaning to vote for you again. Now, her daughter was too young to last time. She's going to vote for her first time in a presidential campaign, and she is leaning Biden.
Yeah. This is uncomfortable. So basically, you're talking to Claudia Conway and Kellyanne. What would you say to the two of them right now if you could just pipe into their TikTok? And is that Eric sitting over by the column? Over there, see him? Is that Eric over her right shoulder?
Imagine the dinner table at their
In Dad's eye shot? That's what it looks like. I think it is.
house, okay? So Barbara, why don't you go first and ask your question?
Bienvenido a Miami.
Thank you.
Mr. Trump, as a frontline ER doctor working through the coronavirus pandemic,
Right.
I know firsthand, and I've seen that many hospitals throughout the United States are suffering financial hardships. These economic effects are trickling down to the frontline workers.
Right.
We are being, across the country, frontline workers are being fired, they're being furloughed, our salaries are being cut.
Really?
And this is also happening in other economic sectors as well, including the travel industry and hospitality.
Well, yeah, definitely there.
Right.
My question to you is, how are you going to get the United States back on track, both in terms of the economy?
Well, we had the best numbers and we're going to next year and these numbers this quarter.
And the pandemic.
So it's happening. We just set a record, 11.4 million jobs.
No, that's not a record. You didn't create them. That's just dumb. Can somebody bring that up? You didn't create those jobs. Those are just people going back to work. 20 million people that lost their jobs still don't have them.
We are going to have a phenomenal third quarter, which will be announced.
The numbers are going to be out right before the election, and I've been in there with my Sharpie.
On November 1st, just prior to the
election, and there will be they will have cleaned up my Sharpie by then.
November 3rd day, where I think you're going to see a red wave. But we're going to have a tremendous announcement, I believe.
There might be a red wave in the economic news. I will give them that. There might be going into the red pretty severely.
We're going to find out, but GDP is going through the roof. Jobs, real estate, houses, so many things are happening. So people were saying we were going to have a 42% unemployment. Look, this was a thing that came into our country
from China, and it was China.
And it happened more than
shouldn't have happened
100 years ago, and it happened now.
Oh, it's the same disease. Oh, I didn't realize it was the Spanish flu. If only someone had kept a vial around of the vaccine.
Talking about a 42% unemployment rate.
Who was talking about that? I heard 20%.
It just came out at 7.8% unemployment, and people can't even believe it.
Yeah, because people are not looking for work. 860,000 new filings for unemployment last week.
Our economy is going to be next year, if we don't have somebody that raises taxes and quadruples taxes, which they want to do and kills everything, our economy is going to be phenomenal next year. We're going to have a phenomenal. And I'll tell you, Savannah, we had the greatest economy in the history of
Right. Did I call it or what?
the country last year, including the state of Florida, where we are now, and Pennsylvania, and North Carolina, and Ohio, every place.
Just every place I have to win in this election, all the swing states. I'm not name checking Idaho anytime soon.
We had the greatest economy
We're not gonna mention the Dakotas.
we ever had. We had to close it down. We saved 2 million lives. We're open.
If you didn't do anything, again,
We have a V-shape. And
it's just a gish gallop.
It's coming back. It's coming back very fast. One other thing, we really helped the hospitals. We've sent billions and billions of dollars to the hospitals. In addition,
Okay, she just asked you why all these people are losing their jobs at the hospitals. Why frontline healthcare workers are losing their jobs, getting furloughed, having their hours cut. And you're going to tell them we sent billions of dollars? So basically what? That you sent it to the administrative staff? Is that what we're supposed to think?
hundreds of millions of masks and gowns. And we went into the ventilator business because...
We went into the ventilator business. This is a good... If you want to sum up this town hall right now, this picture does it. I think more than almost any other. This is the look. This is a man... honest to God, I feel like somebody CGI'd out, they used a green screen, they mopped out the balloon animal he's making. And this lady loves him, wore red, is a Trump voter, is proud to be asking a question, is all in on this, and she's staring at a man who can't comprehend. She's a medical doctor. So even if she's, Q-loving or leaning on that side, she has a level of rationality that's been drilled into her through her education that is she's confronting right now as she watches this guy pucker his face like an anus and blow out this answer.
This country was not equipped with ventilators, and I'm not blaming anybody for it. But
yes, you are. You said the cupboards were bare. It's Obama's fault. And I mean, you can't, because they ordered 19,000 and you scuttled the order, and then you had to reorder them and it cost more money, and never mind.
Now making thousands of ventilators a month, and we have all we can use. We're sending them all over the world because the world needs them. So they
yeah, but not for COVID.
Work very hard and really very, very effectively. Thank you. Great question.
Let's talk to Isabella.
Yeah, great question. I'm not going to answer it. What was that about? Who was fired? Who got furloughed? Basically, she presented a problem that she sees. And his answer was, there is no problem. We already took care of the problem. There isn't going to be a problem. There is no fix. There's not going to be one, and bye. Like, he's looking at Savannah to bail him out.
Close to your mouth.
Now the daughter wants to answer.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. President, my parents are, as you heard, both frontline healthcare workers, and I've seen the physical and the mental tolls that this pandemic has taken on them.
Oh boy. Oh no. Physical and mental toll. Which one can I dodge the easiest? Ooh. Don't say anything about her boobs. Just don't do it.
As well as the exacerbation of coronavirus due to Americans who are
What does that exacerbation mean?
not wearing masks or participating in social distancing. After contracting COVID-19 yourself, has your opinion changed on the importance of mask wearing?
No.
Because I was okay with the masks. I was good with it, but I've heard many different stories on masks. I mean, I had, being president, you have people, they bring meals, they bring this, and I had an instance recently where a very wonderful person is bringing me a meal, and he's playing with his mask, and he's touching his mask all over the place, and then...
You have to wash your hands, cough into your elbow, socially distance. There's a bunch of different factors. And again, this goes back to waiters. This is his response. Both her parents are frontline healthcare workers. She's worried about their health. Have you changed your mind? He's like, nah, not really. I mean, waiters are always, I'm always served food. There's no point where, like, the other day I was going to the refrigerator and I was making myself a sandwich, because I have some free time and I like to do that. And I make my own food occasionally and I always love to do that or whatever. And I was like, how many people have touched the fridge handle? And I was worried about that, and so you feel like you can be vigilant, but you can't. But literally, this dude is like, my servants are disgusting.
He's bringing a plate in, and I'm saying, well, I don't know if that's so good. I mean, the good news, I didn't eat it, okay? I decided not to eat it. This was a month ago.
What?
But look, you have...
Okay, first of all, I know I'm going to be calling bullshit on a lot of stuff, but I am not going... I don't believe for 1 second that you put a plate in front of this man and he doesn't eat what's on it.
On the masks, you have two stories. You have a story where they want, a story where they don't want.
No, there isn't a story where they want and where they don't want.
I don't get that, because it's just all of your public health officials, your administration, they're in unison about this. No. They're all in unison about it. The University of Washington, which is they have a model that your coronavirus task force relies on, says that if everyone wore a mask, you could cut expected deaths in half.
And then you have other people that disagree.
And then you have other people that disagree. Who?
Scott Atkins. If you look at
Scott. Wait. Okay. First of all. His name is Scott Atlas. Trump just called him Scott Atkins.
In half.
And then you have other people that disagree.
Well, what does that mean?
Scott Atkins, if you look...
Scott Atkins. He just called Scott Atlas Scott Atkins, because I'll tell you why. Because Scott Atlas was trying to get him to get on the Atkins diet, and he mixed up the words in his head. That's what happened. This is friggin' ridiculous. His name is Scott Atlas, which is ridiculous enough to start with, and he's not an epidemiologist.
Expected deaths in half.
And then you have other people that disagree.
Well, what does that mean?
Scott Atkins, if you look at Scott, Dr. Scott, he's from Great Guys.
Dr. Scott from Great Doctor, Dr. Great Scott. This dude is always 20 feet away.
I agree.
Well, what does that mean?
Scott Atkins, if you look at Scott, Dr. Scott, he's from Great Guy, Stanford. He will tell you
he's from Great Guy Stanford.
He's a disease expert.
Oh, I don't know. Look, he's an expert. He's one of the great experts of the world.
But I don't get it because
he's one of the great experts of the world. Yeah. You know what he's an expert in? Old farts who have strokes.
You have so much power and influence as president. You could go to you could require it at your rallies, and you could say, everyone put on a mask right now. And the University of Washington says you would save lives.
University of Washington, and you have other places say different things. You have a lot.
Which ones? Which ones? Say any of them. She's citing an actual place. What, you know, is it the University of Atkins?
Hey, Dr. Fauci said don't wear a mask, right?
At first, but
no, he didn't. He said don't use N95 masks and the medical masks because we need them for healthcare providers.
Everybody agreed.
No, I don't know that he changed his mind. But then you have a report coming out 2 days ago that 85% of the people wearing masks.
I looked at that report. It's not about mask wearing. It was neutral on the question of masks.
We're on the same side. I say wear the mask. I'm fine with it. I have no problem. We're on the same side.
Let's take a break.
Well, wear the mask. I'm fine with it is not the same thing as saying everybody needs to wear a mask when they go out. It's not that I'm fine with it. Fine with you wearing it, I'm fine with you not. That's the friggin' problem.
We're going to get more questions right after this.
That's the face of someone who knew that went well. Watch
Questions
this.
right after this. We're going to get more questions right after this.
Hold on, let's see if we can. Is it? Oh, I don't know if we can bring forward. Thank you. There it is. There's the freeze frame. That's what it is. Ugh. Why did I say yes to this? Okay, by the way, because I stop and start, we can just jump right through this thing.
Proud. We're live in Miami with President Trump for a town hall. Live in Miami with
Did they have a hose in that chair attached to his diaper?
President Trump for a town hall. Thank you.
Again, this is he's in a round. He's separated from everybody. He has a microphone. He could get up and walk around. We didn't see him walk out. We're not seeing him move.
Mr. President, we have another
will we see him get up at the end and walk around? He's been seated the entire time.
voter. Now, Christy Alonso, come on out, Christy. She is leaning slightly towards you. She says she voted for you in 2016. Christy, you ready? Take the mask off, hold the mic close, and let's hear your question.
Thank you for your service, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
We're a hard...
Obviously you didn't hear. He has bone spurs and therefore was unable to serve.
Working middle-class family of four. My husband and I are both self-employed, and we have to get our own individual health care. As you know, healthcare costs have gone up considerably over the decades, and you had originally said you were going to repeal and replace Obamacare. What is your plan now in 2020 to make healthcare costs...
Well, we're going to make it cheaper and better and faster, and if you really think about it, as soon as the election's done, I'm totally going to give you my plan that was 2 weeks away.
Affordable for Americans like myself.
So we got rid of the individual mandate on Obamacare, which was the worst part of Obamacare, and now you could actually...
was the thing that actually paid for people with pre-existing conditions and lifetime caps.
Say it's not Obamacare, because that's how big it was.
So now he wants you to think that if they can keep Obamacare without the individual mandate, that it's technically Trump care. Which, I mean, in some ways you are like all the things and no way to pay for it.
Where you had to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance.
No.
So we got rid of that. That was a big, big thing.
The bad health insurance was a policy that wouldn't pay for your ambulance or charge you $40,000 as a deductible.
And by doing that, and we will always have, by the way, we're always protecting people with pre-existing conditions, and I can't say that more strongly.
Yeah, I know you can say it, but you have never said how. How?
But we've been able to bring healthcare costs way down. Now, I took over.
Apparently, you haven't.
Care, got rid of the individual mandate, made it good, managed it much better. Remember, they had the $5 billion website disaster and all of the problems they had.
You mean when the Republican Congress people that were trying to scuttle it?
With Obamacare, it's not good. We'd like to terminate
Good,
it.
not good. It's not good.
And we want a much less expensive health care that's a much better health care, and that's where we're aiming. And if we can do that, and we have a very good chance of doing it, but we've also brought down the price of Obamacare. Problem with Obamacare, it basically is never going to be great. And I want to give great health care.
Mr. President, I got to
thank you very much.
On the pre-existing conditions. This is such a big issue for voters.
It is a big issue for me, too.
In point of fact, your administration is
Yeah, this is the, how?
about to go to the Supreme Court to argue to throw out the rest of Obamacare, which includes the protections for pre-existing conditions.
That's right.
So your administration is in court right now trying to get rid of that protection.
In order to replace it with a much better health care at a much lower price and always under...
What, where? What, oh... That's when Donald Trump realized that it was a mistake to have put that tack in his back pocket.
All circumstances, we are going to protect the Republicans. And I mean, maybe I changed the party a lot over the last 3 years, but we will protect people with pre-existing conditions.
How?
And Savannah, what I want to do, get rid of the terrible Obamacare. I've already done it to a large extent because, as you know, the
He wants credit for getting rid of it, and they can't.
individual mandate is gone. That was the worst
You
part.
repealed, but you haven't replaced. Now, you've been in office almost 4 years.
What we have done.
You had both houses of Congress, Senate and House, in Republican hands,
That's
and there
right.
is not a replacement yet.
That's right. I'm sorry, but if you look, we had both houses, and what did we do? We got rid of the individual mandate.
But
that went
the
through the
promise was
legislature.
repeal and replace.
Look, we should be on the same side. I want it very simple. I'm going to put it very simple. We would
We would like much better health care.
to terminate it, and we would like to replace it with something that's much less expensive and much better.
What would that be? Where is that written on paper?
We will always protect people with pre-existing
But if you're
conditions.
successful
And
in
here's the
court
thing. If
in
we
November,
don't-
those pre-existing conditions,
if we
that
don't
promise will be gone.
If we don't succeed, we are running the remnants of whatever's left because we took it apart. We are running the remnants of whatever is left.
The remnants. It's the remnants plan. That's,
Much better than the previous administration, which ran it very badly. But we'd like to have new health care, much better and much less expensive.
and good and big shiny. I like make big hello and maybe wear nurses outfit pretty and also but they're wet and good and medicine tastes like cherry and good stuff. Good God, what the shit are we watching? Let me put it very simply. We want good, better thing, that big truck honk honk. This is stupid. This is honest to God. And he thinks he's winning this argument right now. Listen to this.
But we'd like to have new health care, much better and much less expensive.
Well, we'd like to. Why don't you? You've been in office for almost 4 years. Why don't you? Why don't you? We want Savannah, you were supposed to bring it with me. Pretty lady over left shoulder, nod lots, good things, nom nom.
To question number 5. And
We want jam. This is a man who really just knows he stepped on a rake, knows he has no answer. Look at that. Look at that. We all have frozen moments. Look at this. Watch
New
this.
health care, much better and much less expensive.
let me get to question number 5, and you'll like this. He's stuck in traffic. His name is Joe White.
We're going to do something about traffic. We have a much better thing. We're going to repeal all the traffic lights, all the lines in the road, and then after that, we're going to come up with a much better plan while you're driving. We're going to repeal and replace all the guardrails, all the bridges, and then we will, after they're all torn up and destroyed, then we're all going to Jesus.
Is registered as a Democrat. He says he's leaning toward Biden, and Biden had voted for Hillary Clinton.
He's not running traffic. He's driving a houseboat? What is
in
this?
2016. And his question was, a second stimulus payment has been broadly agreed upon by the Republicans and Democrats, and yet now we're in October.
No. I appreciate where he's coming from. It has not broadly been agreed upon.
Still not passed. Why not use your office to make the second stimulus payment a separate targeted emergency relief package to help?
Pucker up, Buttercup. This is a man who just wants to. Can we just put all these questions away and let me kiss you, Savannah?
Americans weather the pandemic.
We've actually passed 3 packages, and we're on our 4th. And I agree with him 100%. He should vote for me. The problem you have is Nancy Pelosi. She couldn't care less about the worker. She
passed a bill already.
Care less about our people, and we should have a stimulus. And I want a stimulus. The Republicans will approve a stimulus. The problem.
No, they won't. Mitch McConnell won't bring it to the floor.
She doesn't want to do it because she thinks it's bad for her election. The fact is, she's wrong, because people know she's in our way. She's not approving it. She doesn't appreciate our people, and she doesn't appreciate at all our workers. Nancy Pelosi, we are ready to sign and pass stimulus, but she's got to.
People do not love the back and forth of Washington, but this has been a roller coaster. Back in early October, you one day tweeted, "No more negotiations until after Election Day. I'm walking away." Then I think.
Yeah. So which part of that was Nancy Pelosi? That was actually a retweet of Nancy Pelosi that actually.
The next couple of days, you said maybe we can do something targeted. Then you said.
That's right. Yeah, I did that, and oops.
I want a big bill, but then Senate Republicans said, no, we're not for that. So you're the big deal maker. How come this is so, you yourself have changed positions?
Did you ever hear of a word called negotiation?
Did you ever hear of a word called a negotiation? Jesus Christ.
Okay?
We're negotiating. That's what this is. When I say we're walking, no more negotiations till after the election, and my own party screams at me, that's a normal part of the negotiation. Do you not know?
People's lives are hanging in the balance.
And you know who I'm negotiating against? Nancy Pelosi, because she doesn't want to give the money. We should have stimulus. This was not our people's fault. This was China's fault. And she's penalizing our people. I'm ready to sign a big, beautiful stimulus. You saw the other day.
Well, then tell Mitch McConnell to pass it.
I say go big or go home, right?
Right. Yeah, we saw that. What does that mean?
That's what
I want it to be big. I want it to be bold. I want the money.
And then I want to go home. I want to go home.
Are Senate Republicans with you? They're going to go big?
They'll go.
Big old number?
They'll go. They're going to be very
because so
happy.
far they have not said they would.
Because I haven't asked them to, because I can't get through Nancy Pelosi.
Okay.
What do you mean you can't?
Nancy
Hold on.
Pelosi
You can't ask.
die.
Wait 1 second. Whoa. You can't ask Republicans because you can't get through Nancy Pelosi.
To because I can't get through Nancy Pelosi.
Okay.
If Nancy Pelosi and I, through my representatives or directly, I don't care, if we agree to something, the Republicans will agree to it.
Okay.
No, they won't. No, they won't. That's the problem.
Our next question comes from, this is interesting. She voted for Clinton in 2016, but recently changed her registration from Democrat to independent. She says she's truly undecided. Her name's Becky Lightman. Hello, Becky. What's your question?
Hello, Becky.
Hi, I'm great.
How are you? Don't say anything creepy, Trump. Don't say anything creepy. She is wearing a red dress. She's wearing the uniform of the RNC. We'll see.
You.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you. So, corporate tax rates are a hot button issue, and you have cut corporate tax rates, and your opponent Joe Biden is planning to raise them.
Right.
A lot of Americans think that corporations don't pay their share of taxes and want to see those tax rates.
It was a boomerang question. Boomerang.
Increase.
What do you say to those Americans to maybe tell them why you want the corporate tax rate lower and why that helps them?
It's a great question. We've created more jobs than this country has ever created. We're up to.
We created more jobs than this country has ever created. Okay. Okay. This isn't even this part of it. Which president created the most jobs? Let's just go. Number 1, Bill Clinton. Highest number of total jobs created. Number 2, Franklin Roosevelt. Number 3, Ronald Reagan. Number 4, Jimmy Carter. Number 5, Harry Truman. Number 6, Lyndon Johnson. Number 7, Richard Milhouse Nixon. Number 8, Dwight Eisenhower. Number 9, Barack Hussein Obama. Number 10, George W. Bush. 11, John F. Kennedy. How many jobs has Trump created? 6.6 million jobs. This was in his first 3 years. This was before the pandemic. Jimmy Carter, let me go back to here. Jimmy Carter, 9.8 million jobs. 10.6, but who's counting? This is the absolute bare number. So more jobs than this, so that's the quote. We created more jobs than this country has ever created. If a Democrat said this,
160 million jobs. We were never even close to that number.
Wait, okay, now he's taking credit for the creation of everyone who was working in the country.
Has ever created. We were up to 160 million jobs. We were never even close to that number. We were just hitting 160 million.
Yeah, we weren't up to that number because by population and per capita, but that doesn't mean percentage-wise you're anywhere close.
Jobs. Companies are pouring into our nation because of the tax rate. And if Biden comes in and raises taxes on everybody, including middle income taxes, which he wants to do, you will.
No. That's a good look, though.
Blow this thing and you'll end up with a depression, the likes of which you've never had. That's what's going to happen. We have something that.
Why are you nodding?
It's really good. The reason we're coming back so strong is because we built a very strong foundation. Companies are moving in. Car companies are moving into Michigan, into Ohio, into South Carolina and North Carolina just today.
Which I have to.
So what's happening?
If I lose it, it's because I've lost those days.
They're coming in because we reduced the taxes. Our taxes, our corporate taxes, were the highest in the world.
Look, she's not having it for whatever reason.
And now they're among the lower taxes. They're not the lowest, but they're among the lowest. And what that means is jobs. But also, we're doing a very big, and we've done a very big middle income tax package. So if we get in, we're going to do the middle income tax package. But it's a great question. And if he comes along and raises.
What do you mean you're going to do a middle income tax package?
Rates, all those companies that are coming in, they will leave the U.S.
No, they won't. Having a baseline minimum 15% is not going to drive everybody out.
So fast,
he means him.
Will spin.
He means him.
Let that happen.
On the subject of taxes, as you know, the New York Times has obtained, it says, years of your tax returns, among other things. It says that you have debts of approximately $421 million that you have personally guaranteed and that will come due in the next 4 years. The question is...
Oh, boy. Who gave you that money?
On behalf of voters, who do you owe $421 million to?
First of all, let me answer. What they did is illegal, number one. Also,
you don't know that. You don't know that. You don't know it's illegal.
Numbers are all wrong with the numbers they released. And just so you understand, when you have a lot of real estate, I have real estate, you know a lot of it, okay? Right down the road, Doral, big stuff, great stuff. I'm very when I decided to run, I'm very under-levered, fortunately. But
Leveraged. The term in both real estate and economics is leveraged. You're not under-levered. Jesus Christ.
Very under-levered. I have a...
Leveraged. Okay, I often expect him to correct those things.
very
And he's still, say it again.
small percentage of debt compared. In fact, some of it I did as favors to institutions that wanted to loan me money. 400.
What? Oh, that's what it was. These people just wanted to loan him money. Like he was just taking, dude, who doesn't get a loan as a favor? Explain that shit. Wait, tap the brakes. Somebody, go back to that one.
In fact, some of it I did as favors to institutions that wanted to loan me money. $400 million compared to the assets.
Huh? Seriously. What?
That I have, all of these great properties.
How many of these people in the back have banks that just want, you know, like you don't want to borrow money, but they just want to loan it to you. So what? They loaned it to you at 0 interest because they just needed, they had too much money in their bank?
All over the world, and frankly, the Bank of America building in San Francisco. I don't love what's happening to San Francisco.
Well, do I hear you right? It sounds like you're saying $400 million isn't that much.
One of the biggest office buildings.
But are you?
And by the way, those aren't his company's debts. This is the part where he's lying the most. This is, and I hope she points this out. But what's showing up, that $400 million, is not what the Trump organization owes on properties. This is stuff he's personally signed for. It's different.
That yes, you do owe some $400 million.
What I'm saying is that it's a tiny percentage of my net worth.
That sounds like
you'll
yes.
see that soon because we're doing things. You know, we've given.
You'll see that soon because we're doing things. You mean you'll finish the audit and you'll release it? Are you going to release that at the same time the numbers come out on November 1st?
It's 108 or 112 pages of financial detail to elections,
but,
and you know we have to.
Right, but that doesn't mean it's if they can't check it against anything, they're just taking your word for it.
As the president, as any politician, you have to file. Nobody ever looks at that. When they do, they see.
Yeah, they looked at it. It doesn't match up.
How incredible the company is, but more importantly, they see where this debt is. No, I don't owe Russia money. I owe a very, very small, it's called mortgages. Yeah. People have a house, they put a mortgage.
Any foreign bank, any foreign entity?
Not that I know of, but I will probably, because it's so easy to solve, and if you'd like to do, I will let you know who I owe whatever small amount of money. I want to say two things.
Then do it. Okay. By the way, that's never going to happen. This is bullshit. This is just not, this isn't going to happen.
It's a very small amount of money.
$400 million is a very small amount of money.
It's very straight. It's very, very straight. But it's a tiny percentage of the worth. Did you ever hear the expression under-levered?
Yeah.
I am extremely under-levered.
No, you're not under-leveraged. Jesus Christ. Seriously, this is just dumb. Here's a good idea. Don't loan $400 million to someone who doesn't know the difference between being under-leveraged and under-levered. They might pull a lever and launch you into the Potomac.
I think you could clear this up tonight.
No one, and by the way, Savannah, you have not heard the expression under-levered.
By just releasing your tax returns yourself. I mean, that's what I don't understand. I think people are just wondering.
As you know,
you're
I'm
the
under
only.
audit. It turned out that I am under audit.
They're not under audit.
Excuse me. No, but you
The IRS says that doesn't stop you from
accused
releasing.
me of not being under audit previously, and so did other people at NBC, and I am under audit. So that was solved. That's good. I am under audit. No person.
No, he's not. That's not solved. It's bullshit. He's fighting the audit, so he's considering himself under audit. The audit found that he had to return $72 million. He doesn't want to return it, so they're fighting the audit. That doesn't mean you're still under audit. That's the auditing process going on, but the IRS already made their decision.
In their right mind would release prior to working out the deal with the IRS. And I'll go a step further.
Why wouldn't they? If you're on the up and up, of course you would. That's ridiculous. Seriously.
I'm treated very badly by the IRS. They treat me.
Are they? They gave you $72 million and they just want it back.
Very, very badly. You have people in there from previous administrations. They treat me very badly.
Woohoo!
But we're under audit. It's very routine in many ways, but we're under audit. They like to change the game, change the rules, do everything. You saw what they did.
You mean that when the tax code changes, like when a new tax cut comes in
and they have to write who can get it, who can't, what the standards are.
The Tea Party people, you saw what they did with the religious
But to be clear, there is no law or rule that prohibits you from releasing your tax returns.
Except common sense and intelligence and having lawyers that say, because I would love to release them, and as soon as we come to a conclusion, I will release them, and very gladly. But if you go to elections, and if you take a look, you'll see 112, I think it's 112. It talks about the income, which is rather massive. It talks about all.
It's a show. He gave the same documents to the election committee that he gave to some of the banks, which inflate his worth. He gave the opposite information to the IRS. Now, the IRS can look at any government filing based on financial stuff that you've put out. So one of the problems with the ongoing quote-unquote audit that might be going on, and might have even triggered other audits, is that they saw his financial filing and called bullshit.
Of the properties, they have them listed. You can never learn more, but you know what happened? People went there, all the reporters.
You can never learn more? Well, if there's not more information in your tax filings, then give them out.
There was like a feeding frenzy. This was originally when I filed it. And I filed it every year. I update it every year. My son is here. They run the company. I don't
Yep, Eric was there. That was right.
run the company.
It also says that you paid $750 in taxes in the year you were elected. Is that
that's
true
a
or not?
statutory number. It's a statutory.
But
it's
is
not
that true?
I think it's a filing number. You pay $750. It's a
But
filing
is that
or a
all you
filing
paid?
fee.
Because most people here probably paid
No,
more.
I don't know. I can tell you this. If they
The lady in the back who likes him is like, I didn't pay more than $750 in taxes. Yeah, you're not allegedly a billionaire, I'm guessing, or you wouldn't be sitting in the back.
have my tax returns, as you know, they have to go to jail. It's illegal.
No, it isn't.
But their numbers were wrong. But let me tell you.
Well, if their numbers are wrong, then they don't have your tax returns. Again, you can't leak a lie. If they have to go to jail, that means what they have is real. If what they have isn't real, then sue them for libel and fail.
What else? I don't owe money to any of these sinister people. This has been going on for years now. Russia. It turned out to be a hoax. And it turned out to be that Hillary Clinton and the Democrats were dealing with Russia, not me.
Nodding
it's
again.
a whole hoax. So I would not mind at all saying who it is, but it's a very small. When you look at vast properties like I have, and they're big and they're beautiful.
Yeah, those are owned by the company. We're talking about personal income tax and personal debt.
They're well located. When you look at that, the amount of money, $400 million, is a peanut. It's extremely.
It's a peanut. He's paying $750 in taxes. That's way too much. If he could pay zero, he would. But $400 million is a peanut. Why does he speak English like the Nazi and Inglorious Bastards?
Under-levered. And it's levered with normal banks. Not a big deal.
All right, let's take a break. We'll get more voter questions right after this.
Let's take a break. Yeah, thank you. That's not going well. Jumping ahead. Come on.
Stress.
Come on, get ahead. I don't need.
Shattering the record for most COVID.
Hi, Lester. There you go.
You got to get a.
Oh, wait a minute. New. Cancel. Back up. What happened? What are you doing? Go back to where I was. No. Sorry, that was weird. Live in 2 hours. What are you talking about? Is that the old one? What's happening? Okay, you. What happened? Reload. Open up. I'm watching live. Streamed live 83 minutes ago. Here we go. Okay, so we're at hour. Okay, it's waking up to it. Yes. Yes, he did an hour. Here we go. Here we go. Get back to that. I think
I file it every year. I update it every year. My son is here. They run the company. I don't run the company.
It also says that you paid $750 in taxes in the year. Another voter.
Here we go. We'll resume shortly. I'm glad they picked a picture of him where the suit he's wearing actually looks like it's made out of cloth instead of these weird, like, Halloween businessman suits. Come on. Let's go.
We are live in Miami in the middle of a town hall with President Trump. Thank you again.
Boy, are we.
Here we've got another voter, Adam Sugar. He voted for
Adam Sugar.
Clinton in 2016. He's registered as a Democrat and says he's supporting Biden. Adam, take it away.
Thank you, Savannah. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Adam.
4 years ago, Senate leadership said it was inappropriate to push through a nominee in an election year. Yet they fast-tracked your nominee for the Supreme Court just today. The question I have for you is, how do you what do you say to the voter that thinks it's hypocritical to act in that manner and that they can't trust Republicans' word?
So when
RBG said I'm president for 4 years, not 3.
I was elected, and when a president is elected, they're elected for a period of 4 years. And Justice Ginsburg said it best. I think talking about President Obama having to do with somebody else, that the president is put there for 4 years, not for 3 years. So
Yeah, that's what he's saying. So why did the Republicans stopped Merrick Garland, and therefore, if that's the standard, yeah.
This 4th year, it happened to come up, unfortunately, because I had great respect for Justice Ginsburg, but a vacancy happened to come up, and we
QAnon's on her phone.
Somebody that's outstanding. She has been an absolute star, and I'm extremely proud of it. But again, plenty of time. I mean, there's plenty of time. We're going to do it before.
That's all right. You can. We love Glasgow, Kentucky, and you are kind of nuts for laughing at me.
Election,
but
we also have much time after the election. But there's no reason to wait.
Oh, there's no reason we have to do it before the election, because if afterwards, doing it in the lame duck segment of my presidency doesn't feel great.
Because it's almost unanimous, it seems to me, certainly within the Republican Party.
Yeah, of course it's unanimous within them. They think you're going to lose. They think this is their last chance to get a Republican on. They're breaking their own standard. He's asking you about hypocrisy.
And frankly, most of the Democrats within closed rooms, I guarantee you that.
No, most Democrats are not in closed room going, wow, thank God we got somebody like Amy Coney Barrett, who is to the right of Brett Kavanaugh on the use of the N-word in the workplace.
An outstanding person, and I'm
as a racial epithet, not between two black people talking and making someone else uncomfortable. That's a specific case. Kavanaugh said the use of by a superior or someone else in the workplace, a white person in this case, towards a black person, the use of the N-word in the workplace created a hostile workplace, and therefore the person had standing for suing the company for creating a hostile work environment. Amy Coney Barrett disagrees.
My 4th term. And if you look at it, and if you put the shoe on the other...
Wait, 4th term?
Losing my 4th term. And
4th year?
If you look at it, and if you put the shoe on the other foot, if they had this, they would do it 100%. So there's been 29 times when this...
They attempted to. Republicans blocked it. They're the ones being hypocritical. Just because you view the world as a giant grift doesn't mean that other people have to live by your shit standards.
This happened all 29 times. A president has done exactly what I've done.
Can I just, to the voters' point, I'll just say that in 2016 you were on another show.
I'm emptying the tip jar. You guys have to fill it. That's all I can do. It's just subscriptions and bits and stuff and thank yous and Venmos and whatever. It's nice to share the evening with you. Hi.
Another morning show. And
what a great way to deny him ratings.
We're asked whether President Obama should nominate a Supreme Court Justice Merrick Garland, and you said, I think the Senate should wait until the next president and let the president pick. Now, that was 8 months before the election. This is 3 weeks before the election.
I have a lot of respect, by the way.
So you have changed your position on this.
I have a lot of respect for Judge Garland. I want to tell you that. But I'll tell you, the
whole ball game changed when I got in office.
Changed when I saw the way they treated Justice Kavanaugh. I have never seen.
He got on the Supreme Court. He's a Supreme Court justice now. They didn't deny a seat.
Human being, and I'm not just talking about Supreme Court. I have never seen a human being treated so badly with false accusations and everything.
Never? Oh, that's right. I forgot. You hung out with Jeffrey Epstein, and you believe that he and you know for a fact that those accusations against you and Jeffrey Epstein are actually true. So of course you're reacting to believing the ones about Kavanaugh are false. You never met the guy.
Else, I have never seen anything like it. And you know,
never? And you know what? Neither of you.
What? The truth is, Savannah, like it or not, the ball game changed a lot. There has never been anybody treated so badly as now Justice Kavanaugh.
Yeah, he's Justice Kavanaugh. He's on the Supreme Court. He made it. You
mentioned that you would like to see Amy Coney Barrett confirmed to the Supreme Court in case any challenges come up in connection with the election. Yeah. Do you expect her to rule for you?
I think she'll have to make that decision. I don't think she has any conflict at all. You know, a Supreme Court judge does not have, I mean, they can make their own decision. And they actually have additional power to make that decision.
What powers are those? The ability to think? Have we checked her bank book? Is she under or over levered?
It would be totally up to her.
Yeah, you're hoping so.
I would think that she would be able to rule either for me or against me. I don't see any conflict whatsoever. We have an election coming up. I think it's the most important election.
Yeah, you do realize there is a slight chance, everybody, that Amy Coney Barrett, as a staunch conservative and a devout Christian, may be completely creeped out by Donald Trump, but believe that it is his mission and the purpose of his presidency is to deliver her to the Supreme Court. Nobody's on death watch for the next 4 years. Nobody on the Supreme Court is so old that they're like, yeah, they're not gonna make it through the next 4 years. So nobody on the right is looking to a seat being filled in any obvious way in the next 4 years. So he's outlived his usefulness. It is very possible that she could, slide in under this jerk and then stay true to her values and help dust him off.
In the history of our
Look at that, 381 people. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Welcome.
Country, if for any chance, and it probably won't, and I hope it doesn't ever get to the Supreme Court, but
it won't.
If it did, I would think that she would rule one way or the other. I would think.
You think, oh, yeah. Wonder do judges rule one way or the other? Which is the way you would rather her rule?
But for you think she would rule for you?
I have no idea.
I mean, of course she'll rule.
I have no idea.
One way or the other,
but believe it or not, I never asked her about it. I never talked about it.
You can't. Your own staff tells you not to.
Didn't talk about any of the obvious things that you could talk about.
What are those?
And I think
you mean like Roe v. Wade?
A lot of people in my position might, but in speaking to a lot of very brilliant people and people that.
Oh, so you have been outside the White House.
Do this for a living. They say.
What do they do for a living? Other presidents? What are you talking about?
It's better not to talk, so I talk.
Yeah, and so what he's talking about is the Federalist Society. He met with the people from the Federalist Society. They assured him that she's on board for all the stuff that he wants, and they'll take care of all the tough questions. So they ask her or put her through the process or go through her record like everybody else on his list. And they decide that person's okay. They add it to the list. They hand him the list, and they go, "Don't ask her anything," so that you have plausible deniability. The whole purpose of the Federalist Society's list is plausible deniability for right wingers.
Or about life. I talked to her about the fact: would you like to do this? Are you willing to do this? Because it's a tremendous burden. The answer was yes. She's unbelievably well qualified, but I never spoke to her about these various questions.
Let's get our next voter. She's leaning.
Yeah.
To you, Mr. President, she voted for you in 2016. She is a registered
She's leaning now. She did vote
Republican.
for you.
Her name is Mariah Green.
Hi, Mariah.
Mariah, what's your question?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President. I'm honored to be with you here tonight, sir, so thank you. I'm a pro-life millennial, and my question for you today is, if Roe v. Wade is ultimately overturned in the future, what protections would be put in place or kept for where the mother's life is in jeopardy in relation to high-risk pregnancies?
Well, again, I'm not ruling on this, and Roe v. Wade is something that a lot of people would say, obviously, you're going to speak to somebody. I also, two other great justices, Justice Gorsuch and Justice Kavanaugh, I never spoke to them about Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, because they were on the list.
I never spoke to them about election laws. I never spoke to them about anything. And I've done the right thing from
I'm a pro-life millennial, and as a pro-life millennial, I hate labels. And
standpoint, I don't even know from a legal standpoint, but it was the right thing. I think, depending on what happens with Roe v. Wade, I think that perhaps it could get sent down to the states, and the states would decide. I also think perhaps nothing will happen.
Perhaps nothing.
I have not talked to her about it. I think it would be.
Yeah, that's what everybody's worried about, is that Roe v. Wade will get overturned and nothing will happen.
Inappropriate to talk to her about it. And some people would say you can talk to her about it.
And you know, some people think that you should invest in coat hangers.
Would be inappropriate.
But what is your preference? Because it agreed, that's not something you should talk to the judge about. But would you like to see Roe versus Wade overturned?
I would like to see a brilliant jurist, a brilliant person who has done this in great depth and has actually skirted this issue for a long time, make a decision. And that's why I chose her.
Skirted this decision. What? I would like to see a brilliant jurist who has skirted this decision for a long time make the decision.
A brilliant person who has done this in great depth and has actually skirted this issue for a long time, make a decision. And that's why I chose her. I think that she's going to make a great decision. I did not tell her what decision to make, and I think it would be inappropriate to say right now.
All right.
Because I don't want to do anything to influence her. I want her.
No, it's not about, you're not going to influence her. We want to know what you want to have happen, so we can literally look at, you chose her.
To get approved, and then I want her to go by the law, and I know she's going to make a great decision for our country.
But you running as a pro-life Republican, most pro-life Republicans would like to see Roe v. Wade overturned and abortion banned.
Many of them would.
What do you
Perhaps
think?
most of them would. I am telling you, I don't want to do anything to influence anything right now. I don't want to go.
Yeah, I mean, you're the president. I mean, obviously. So you're taking the stance towards Roe v. Wade that you took during the negotiations about the stimulus and whether or not people wear masks. You know, leadership.
Out tomorrow and say, oh, he's trying to give her a signal, because I didn't speak to her about it. I've done the right thing in so doing. How she's going to rule, you're going to find out perhaps, or you might not find out. I mean, it may never get there.
Yeah, you may never find out. You may die of COVID because of my mismanagement before it even comes to court.
It may never get there. We'll see what happens.
All right, we have another.
Yeah, it might not ever. I mean, I don't know that anybody's going to bring up what is Roe v. Wade again?
Question. This is Cindy Velez. She is undecided. She says she's leaning to Biden, and she did vote for Clinton in 2016.
Blue dress, you're in trouble. Brown lady, and pull the ripcord, quick.
She's registered
Get out.
as a Democrat. Hi, Cindy. What's your question?
Good evening, Savannah.
Cindy,
Good
thank
evening,
you.
Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
As the mother of a young male of color, I have raised him to respect authority, not only because it's the right thing to do, but also out of fear that he may face profiling or be considered a criminal. As an educator, I've also had similar conversations with my high school students. Mr. President, what will you and your administration do to better prepare our law enforcement officers to work in collaboration?
By the way, there are a bunch of Trumpies in the crowd on the right-hand side across from him. He is staring at, because Eric's there, Laura Trump is there, I think. There's like 4 or 5 non-citizens, staffers or whatever. They're citizens, of course. But they're not civvies.
With the communities that they serve.
And I don't know, but it looks like Kimberly Guilfoyle is over there. Like, are they just following him around? Because I don't doubt it.
And also to protect the lives of innocent Black and Latinos from police brutality and injustice.
Right.
This is a good look. It's a good look. Oh, yes?
Fully understand the question. And
oh, good. All right. So English, and she put all the words in the right order for you. You fully understand the question. Okay. I will cover part of Biden after this, yes.
From police brutality and injustice.
Right. I fully understand the question. And I saw everything that you saw over the summer, and it was a terrible thing to watch. We were very strongly, we have a senator named Tim Scott from South Carolina.
He's black. You might know him, right? You're black. He's black. There's black people, right? You know black people. All black people know each other, right? You know we have one black Republican senator, right? He's black. Have I mentioned that? Tim Scott, he's black. You know, you ever met Ben Carson? You guys go to the same restaurants, right? Waffles and stuff, right? You go to Waffles and stuff you've met him, right? Jesus Christ. He's going to bring up criminal justice reform.
He came up with a bill that should have been approved. It was great. It was a bill that was strong in terms of law enforcement and strong in terms of enforcing the proper thing and doing the proper thing by law enforcement. And the Democrats just wouldn't go for it. They wouldn't go for it at all. And I don't know why, because it was a really...
What was the bill? What was in the bill?
Great bill. But I do...
Oh, yeah? It was a great bill. So you read it. You know it's in it. What are you talking about?
Say this.
Uh-huh.
And some people don't like it when I say it, but a lot of people agree. I have done more for the African American community than any president, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln.
So tell your scaredy cat son.
Justice reform.
I know it was chicken and waffles. I just didn't want to be so on the nose.
Prison reform. Historically black colleges and universities. I got them funded. They were in a...
This is fucking painful.
Year-to-year basis, they could have been put out of business as soon as our...
They could have been put out of business. They got funded every year. They had meetings with the president to go over all the... Oh, God, this is terrible. And he's salivating, which is weird. Is that sweat? It looks like he's dribbling right here. I hope it's sweat. I think it's sweat. God help us, I hope it's sweat. But Christ... First of all, he can't bring up black people without criminal justice reform. She's asking about her son. She's raised him to respect authority. He's a good kid. She's worried that he'll be profiled when he comes across some police officers. And what they're going to do is shoot him before they ask any questions. He's going to die. That's what she's worried about. She's a mother. That's what she's concerned about. And your response is, I've done more for your people than Abraham Lincoln. So vote for me and shut up.
Universities, I got them funded. They were on a
year-to-year basis because they met with the president every year and they went into the regular budgeting process and you didn't want to see him again. I get it.
Year basis, they could have been put out of business as soon as our country...
They could have been put out of business. Who wanted to do that?
A little bad year, they would have said, I'm sorry, we're not going to fund you. I got them 10-year funding and financing, and more than they even asked for. I became very friendly with a lot of the heads. But
now that I don't have to meet with them anymore?
And, of course, opportunity zones. But criminal justice reform, everybody said it could not be done.
Nobody said it could not be done. Nobody said criminal justice reform couldn't be done. There's been criminal justice reform under Clinton. There was criminal justice reform under Reagan. There was criminal justice reform under George W. Bush. There was more under Obama than all of those combined.
President Obama and Biden never even tried to do it.
No, they didn't even try? You don't think that's something everybody can Google right now?
Never even tried.
They put together the COPS program. The COPS program was literally to deal with the issue of racial profiling and the danger to minorities from interactions with police and lowering the fatality rate and getting bad cops off of police departments who use excessive force and kill people. That's what it was for. And Trump scuttled it.
But I say that, and I say it often, I'll say it loud, and I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, you also say you'll have a health care plan, and there isn't one.
A great relationship because of what I've done with the African American community. I'm very proud of it.
Oh, yeah? Well, she certainly thinks so.
Let's go to our next question. We have
But so your son, I don't know, what was your son? What was that bullshit about your kid again?
Paulette Dale, she leans slightly to Biden. She voted for Clinton in 2016. She's registered as a Republican. Paulette, what's your question?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
I have to say, you have a great smile.
Thank you.
Okay.
Best the money can buy. He does have his teeth changed every year. He has his veneers. He has veneers top and bottom, and sources say he gets them instead of doing proper dental hygiene. He gets his veneers removed and replaced. He goes to the dentist. He goes under. They take him out. They put new ones in, and he starts from scratch.
So, he does. You're so handsome when you smile. Okay. As the daughter of
Why wasn't he happier about that? Like, oh, God.
immigrants to the United States who fled Eastern Europe due to religious persecution.
Right.
Right. Yeah. You definitely Eastern European people who flee to the U.S. because of religious persecution, meaning you're Christian, thank God.
States' immigration policies are very personal for me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Surveys show that most Americans and the majority of Republicans support the Dreamers program. So my question...
We're going to take great care of them. I've taken great care and so much better care of than I take great care.
You, Mr. President, is if you are elected to a second term, do you expect to pursue your previous efforts to cut the DACA program?
Yeah.
Why or why not?
Yes. Oops. Oops.
And the DACA is somewhat different than Dreamers. You understand that, and you understand it?
No, it isn't. Better than anyone? Is that what you're going to say?
Better than anybody probably in this room. Where
Why? You're in Miami, fuckstick.
you come from, by the way, originally? Where?
My grandparents were from Russia and Poland.
That's very good. Okay. So...
I don't understand the religious persecution part of your question. And now you've said Russia, and I just shit my pants. So...
We are going to take care of DACA. We're going to take care of Dreamer. It's working.
Well, why? What's the difference then? Now, you said there was a difference.
Right now, we're negotiating different aspects of immigration and immigration law.
Are you negotiating currently? That's what you're doing, really? Because I thought you were scuttling all Senate and House business, even including the stimulus stuff, just to get Amy Coney Barrett through. And I don't. Has there been ongoing negotiations about DACA, the DACA program, making it more sound and secure? No.
Now, over 400 miles of border wall, southern border.
Jesus Christ. Oh, God. He gets asked a question about Dreamers, and he says border wall. He gets asked a question about black people and their safety and interacting with the police department. So that these are, the woman was speaking of her son, who is an honorable, good human being, who fears that he will be racially profiled and therefore harmed when he is doing nothing wrong as a black man. And his response is, we've done a lot on criminal justice reform, so if he does get thrown in jail for a long time, it might be a long time, might be a long time, might be a very short time or a long time. It's a long time, short time. And thanks for asking me about people who've been in this country for decades and were brought in as children. We are building the wall.
Mexico's working very closely with us. We have the strongest border we've ever had.
27,000 soldiers, and it's not there.
We want people to come into our country. They have to come in legally. But we are working very hard on the DACA program, and you will be, I think, very happy over the course of the next year.
Thank you.
Why? Why?
The same way as you do about it.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
President.
Thank you very much.
How does she feel about it? How does she feel about it? She thinks it's a very important issue. And she, as an immigrant who came here for religious reasons, she has very strong feelings about it. But so you believe it is the Christian thing to do to take in refugee and asylum seekers and children who were okay.
In point of fact,
I'm just kidding.
DACA program, there are, under your administration, no new applicants are allowed. And in fact, the DACA recipients now have to renew every year as opposed to every 2 years. So in fact, the DACA program has been curtailed by your administration.
Well, what happened is because of the pandemic, much changed on the immigration.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. I mean, these DACA people, because they've been here, now that there's a pandemic,
front. Mexico is heavily infected, as you know, and we've made it very, very difficult to come in because of the pandemic. And
no, DACA doesn't have anything to do with new immigrants, asshole. Okay, this is just dumb. This is just dumb.
And crime, but we have a very
because of what?
Very difficult to come in because of the pandemic and other reasons and crime. But we have a very strong border right now, and we have to keep it that way. But we want people to come into our country, but they have to come in through a merit system, and they have to come in legally. And
what the shit does that have to do with DACA, dickhead? DACA pertains to people who have been here for decades.
People are very, very happy with it. You haven't heard any complaints about that. But what happened is because of the pandemic, we have to be extra cautious.
You have been
what do you mean, with people who are already here?
Promising this immigration bill since, well, at least July, when you told my colleague on Telemundo it was coming, but nothing's come yet.
It's very happy. The fact is...
It's very happy. It's very happy. The bill very happy. It make me so good.
Rid of catch and release, which is a disaster. You know, you catch somebody, they could be a
they could be a murderer, a rapist, and you release them and you say, see you in 3 years, and they never come back?
Murderer, they could be a rapist, and we're supposed to release them into our country.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Catch a murderer, rapist, they go to jail, and then you deport them.
The laws that I inherited, we ended that program. Now, I think you're going to see something very, very good. The whole immigration, if you look at what's going on, people used to pour into our country, and especially during the pandemic. I think even you, Savannah, will be very impressed.
Sir, we have about 30 seconds.
Why would you bring this up when you're talking about DACA?
I think about people sitting out there tonight. There are some who love you. Some of them are sitting right around here, and some who will never vote for you. But there are people in the middle. There are people who aren't sure.
That's right.
There are people who want to know why they should give you a second chance and how you might improve in a second term. 30 seconds, what would you say to them?
Because I've done a great job. We had the strongest economy in the world. We closed it up. We are coming around the corner.
That lady's giving him a thumbs up. That's right.
Vaccines are coming out soon, and our economy is strong. We are at a level with jobs like we've never been before. We've rebuilt our military. We've rebuilt our borders. We had no borders. We had no nothing.
We had no borders. We had no nothing.
We've rebuilt so much. We've given you the greatest tax cut in the history of our country. Greatest.
No, not. I mean, maybe he thinks it's the greatest because it's his. Wasn't the biggest. Wasn't the broadest. Wasn't the longest lasting.
Regulation cut, equally as important. And we created new levels of jobs that nobody thought was possible.
New levels of jobs. No, you didn't.
And next year is going to be better than ever before.
I got to leave it.
I agree, because Biden will be president. Look at this man. Look at this man.
I got a wrap from the control room. Mr. President, thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to the voters' questions. That concludes our town hall. We do want to thank the president again, as well as our audience in hot Miami and all of you watching at home. And a reminder, Donald Trump and Joe Biden are scheduled to meet in person a week from tonight in Nashville, a second and final presidential debate moderated by our own Kristen Welker. Have a good evening, and thanks for being with us.
I don't know that I'm going to be doing that. I don't think so. Let's go to the Biden gathering. There we go. Here we go on here. ABC Joe Biden, George Stephanopoulos. I'm George Stephanopoulos.
Joe Biden starts right now.
Very exciting.
This is an ABC News 2020 event special.
Let's stand up and vote and take back this country now.
With an ongoing pandemic, a Supreme Court vacancy, economic uncertainty, and racial injustice dominating this election, final voting is just 19 days away. Tonight,
everybody's got to do lyric videos now.
Voters in a key battleground state put their questions directly to former Vice President Joe Biden. Can he seize the moment and secure their vote? Live from the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia.
But the question I need to know is Joe Biden under-levered?
Edition of 2020, The Vice President and the People. Now reporting, Chief Anchor George Stephanopoulos.
And welcome to our town hall with Joe Biden. Mr. Vice President, welcome to you.
Good to be with you.
We're here with a group of Pennsylvania voters. You can see they're all appropriately socially distanced tonight. And they're a group of, some are voting for you. Some have said they're voting for President Trump.
Graham admitted defeat today? I don't think so. I mean, the polls are too tight for him to do that. I mean, he's panicking, but that's different.
Still undecided.
Thanks, Katie.
And we're going to try to take questions from as many of them as we can tonight. And we're going to start with Nicholas Fedden. He's from Jenkintown, Pennsylvania. That's close to here in Philadelphia. You're a Democrat.
I am a Democrat. Thank you, George.
Everybody's got their own mic, so unlike NBC, ABC gave everybody who was there who's going to ask a question, because they've planned this out, a lavalier. They're probably going to swap them out as the questions go. I don't know if they have enough to go for everybody, but unlike, I guess, NBC, it was giving the same nasty COVID microphone to everybody.
Mr. Vice President, every day my wife and I are in disbelief at the lack of coordinated federal action on COVID-19. We know that your administration would follow the science. My question for you is two parts. First, looking backwards to when this country first became aware of COVID-19, what would...
You mean November of last year when I first started mentioning it on my radio show?
Following the science have meant in terms of actual policy? And then, looking forward, what would your administration do in terms of following the science with real concrete policies that haven't been done by the current administration?
Well, first of all, going back, the fact is that the president was informed how dangerous this virus was. And all the way back in the beginning of February, I argued that we should be keeping people in China. And we had set up in our administration a pandemic office within the White House. There were 44 people on the ground. I suggested we should be seeking, and I didn't hold public office. I was a former vice president. I suggested we, in fact, ask to have access to the source of the problem. And to the best of our knowledge, Trump never pushed that. All those 44 people came home, never got replaced.
Guys who watched Biden already, is this going to lift me up or make me more depressed? I don't want to watch it tonight if it goes bad. No, it's fine.
In addition to that, I pointed out that I thought in February,
it doesn't go bad. He's solid.
Piece for USA Today saying this is a serious problem. Trump denied it. He said it wasn't. We later learned that he knew full well how serious it was when he did an interview with Bob Woodward. And at the time, he said he didn't tell anybody because he was afraid Americans would panic. Americans don't panic. He panicked. He didn't say a word to anybody. Then I wrote a piece in March about what I thought we should be doing to take hold of this, using there's an act that's passed a long time ago that allows the president to go into a business and say, stop making this and start making that. And it took a long time for him to even institute that, to get ventilators and so on. And so the point was he missed enormous opportunities and kept saying things that weren't true. It's going to go away by Easter. Don't worry about it. It's going to all, when the summer comes, it's all going to go away like a miracle. He's still saying those things.
Before you go to the future, can I follow up on looking backward just a little bit? You did have an...
George, you screwed the pooch. Now the camera guy's got to move, and he had to cross frame. Now the director's already mad at you.
In January, where you warmed to the seriousness of the pandemic, but there's no record of you calling for social distancing, limited social gatherings, mandatory masks.
Not back then.
In January, February.
No, in January, February. No, that's correct. There wasn't. That came at the end of March, and then I laid out a detailed plan relative to school openings in June and July, and I talked about, by that time, the science was becoming clearer and clearer of how this was spreading so rapidly. But the president kept denying that. If you notice, from March on, I stopped doing big meetings. I started wearing masks. So it was at a time when the science was saying, and his key people, Dr. Fauci, were saying, you should be taking these precautions. So what we should be doing now, there should be a national standard instead of leaving this up. Remember what the president said to the governors. Well, they're on their own. That's not my responsibility. The governors can do what they need to do, not my responsibility. It is the presidential responsibility to lead. And he didn't do that. He didn't talk about what needed to be done because he kept worrying, in my view, about the stock market. He worried if he talked about how bad this could be unless we took these precautionary actions, then in fact the market would go down. And his barometer of success for the economy is the market. Thirdly, what we didn't do is the president had an opportunity to open and allow schools and businesses to stay open if they got the kind of help they needed. So the Congress passed a couple $1 trillion worth of help, and what happened was most of that money, significant portion of that money, went to the very wealthiest corporations in the country, didn't get to the mom and pop stores. So you had 1 in 5, 1 in 6 minority businesses closing, many of them permanently, people being laid off. And then what happened was when the first tranche of the first round of money for unemployment, enhanced unemployment, went by, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. And to the best of my knowledge, and I mean this sincerely, I can't think, I've been around for a lot of presidents, and you know a lot of presidents in a crisis. I don't ever remember one never calling the House and Senate, Republicans and Democrats together.
Let's look forward a little bit. You said that you would lock down the economy only if the scientists said it was necessary.
Well, by the way, that wasn't the context here. They said, would I lock down the economy if science said so? I said I'd follow science. But I don't think there's a need to lock down.
But I want to press you on that point.
Sure.
You've been in the Oval Office for 8 years with President Obama. He would always say that only the hard to solve problems get to his desk. What is most likely to happen is the scientists will disagree. The scientists will disagree with the economists. So the question is, how are you going to decide this? Who are you going to listen to?
The vote for Amy Coney Barrett is on the 22nd next week from Friday, week from tomorrow.
And how can you contain the pandemic without crushing the economy?
Well, you can contain the pandemic by being rational and not crush the economy. For example, I laid out a plan how you can open businesses. You can open businesses and schools if, in fact, you provide them the guidance that they need as well as the money to be able to do it. What's happening now is we know, for example, if you can open a business and you could have a sign on the door saying safe to come in, that's why people aren't going anyway even when they're open, and say because you have social distancing, you have plastic barriers when you go to the cashier, you have separators between the booths, you don't have large crowds, you reduce the size, the number of people you can have in the restaurant, you make sure there's testing. That's a really critical piece that he didn't do, testing and tracing, and you make sure that people are equipped going to schools. You know, we initially said, the government initially said they were going to provide masks for every student and every teacher. Then they said, no. FEMA said, the president or whomever said, no, that's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. We need more teachers in our schools to be able to open smaller pods. We need ventilation systems changed. Well, there's a lot of things we know now. And I laid them out in some detail. Now, again, when I say I laid them out, I'm not an office holder. I'm running for office. It's not like I'm still vice president or I was a United States senator pushing this. So I don't want to say I. But we did lay out exactly what needed to be done. And take a look. We make up 4% of the world's population. We have 20% of the world's deaths. We're in a situation where we have 210,000+ people dead. And what's he doing? Nothing. He's still not wearing masks and so on.
We're getting some more questions on COVID. Sure. The next one comes from Kelly Lee. She's from Philadelphia.
Thank you.
Republican.
Look at that. That was an interesting part, too. For the record, he just said thank you to the guy after he asked the question. Something we did not see once during the entirety of the Trump exchange. Did you see any of that? No. You didn't. There was not one point where he said thank you for thinking his smile was nice in the middle of it. But after she was done, he didn't say bye, thank you, da-da-da-da. I mean, it's really simple stuff, but...
2016, undecided now?
Hey, Kelly, how are you?
Hi, Mr. Biden. My question is...
Vice President Biden.
Is about the coronavirus vaccine, or potential. Senator Harris stated that she absolutely would not take a vaccine from President Trump. And of course, we all know it's not President Trump that would create this vaccine. It would be doctors and scientists that presumably we all trust. So my question for you is, if a vaccine were approved between now and the end of the year, would you take it? And if you were to become president, would you mandate that everyone has to take it?
Two things. Number one, President Trump talks about things that just aren't accurate about everything from vaccines. We're going to have one right away. It's going to happen and so on. The point is that if the scientists, if the body of scientists say that this is what is ready to be done, and it's been tested, they've gone through the 3 phases, yes, I would take it. I'd encourage people to take it. But President Trump says things like, you know, everything from this crazy stuff he's walking away from now, inject bleach in your arm, and that's going to work. I'm not being facetious, though. I mean, he's actually said these things. And now Regeneron is the answer. That's going to cure everything. There's 500,000 doses. We got a couple, you know, we have more than a few million people. You know, and so, and most of the, if you notice, most of the...
There's 50,000 doses, by the way.
Companies who are developing these vaccines are working, they're making real progress. I meet with 4 leading scientists at least twice a week in the beginning, 4 times a week, giving us the detail on what kind of progress is being made. And right now, they do the right thing. When they run into a serious problem, they halt the test. They don't continue until they figure out what the problem was. They're not there yet. And the most scientists say it's not likely to have a vaccine that would be available until the beginning of next year, into the spring of next year. And in the meantime, what I worry about is the same thing with Regeneron, which is a useful a useful tool. But what's happening is there is no plan to figure out how to distribute it. How many, you know, we have 500,000, you know, vials of it. Well, we don't have all the testing equipment. We don't have all the ability to get it to the people who need it. And what we should be doing now, and allegedly it's happening, but I've not seen it yet, nor the docs that I've talked to have seen it, there should be a plan when we have the vaccine, how do we distribute it?
And once we get it, if it's safe, if it's effective, will you mandate its use?
The answer is depending on how clear. There's vaccines, they say, have a very positive impact, and they're going to affect positively 85% of the American public. Or there's others say this vaccine is really the key. This is the golden key. It depends on the state of the nature of the vaccine, when it comes out, and how it's being distributed.
Yeah,
that would depend on. But I would,
if it's 50-50. Which is the current standard that Trump's FDA is holding. It has to be 50-50 against a placebo, which is amazing as a test standard for a vaccine, but amazingly low. But that's the standard for Trump's FDA. You can't mandate something that's got a 50-50 against a placebo.
I think that we should be talking about, depending on the continuation of the spread of the virus, we should be thinking about making it mandatory.
How could you enforce that?
Well, you couldn't. That's the problem. Just like you can't enforce measles. You can't come to school unless you have a measles shot. You know, you can't. But you can't say everyone has to do this. But you would, just like you can't mandate a mask. But you can say, you can go to every governor and get them all in a room, all 50 of them as president, and say, ask people to wear the mask. Everybody knows.
And if they don't, fines?
And they don't, no, not fine. Then I go to every governor, I go to every mayor, I go to every councilman, I go to every local official, say, mandate the mask. Say, this is what you have to do when you're out. Make sure you encourage it being done. Look, George, you and I know, and I think you do too as well, the words of a president matter.
Absolutely.
No matter whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, they matter. And when a president doesn't wear a mask or makes fun of folks like me when I was wearing a mask for a long time, then, you know, people say, well, it mustn't be that important. But when a president says, I think this is very important, for example, I walked in here with this mask, but I have one of the M95 masks underneath it. I left it in my dressing room, the room I was in before I got here. And so I think it matters what we say. And we're now learning that children are getting the virus, not with as serious consequences. But there's been no studies done yet on vaccines for children. So there's a long way to go, but we can make progress in the meantime and save lives. And the last point I'll make, if you listen to the head of the CDC, he stood up and he said, you know, while we're waiting for a vaccine, and he held up a mask. You wear this mask, you'll save more lives between now and the end of the year than if we had a vaccine. It's estimated by every major study done from the University of Washington to Columbia that if, in fact, we wore masks, we could save between now and the end of the year 100,000 lives.
And avoid lockdowns?
And avoid lockdown, yes. You don't have to lock down if you're wearing the mask.
Let's get a question on the economy. Anthony Argyrakis.
Thank you. I hope I answered your question.
From Canonsburg,
See that? Like, that's talking to a person.
Pennsylvania. It's a suburb of Pittsburgh, Republican.
I know it.
For President Trump.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. You stated.
I understand that you are part of a lizard pedophile group that eats pizza in the basement of a sewer pipe in Pennsylvania Avenue. And the question I have for you is, why don't you understand that, Mr. Trump, why are you trying to legislate it so that President Trump can't walk on water?
That anyone making less than $400,000 will not see one single penny of their taxes raised.
That's right.
But also state that you are going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. The Trump tax cuts reduces taxes for the majority of workers. I would argue not enough. What is your plan for either extending the tax cuts for the middle class or creating a new plan that further reduces those taxes?
I carry this card with me. When I said the Trump tax cuts, about $1.3 trillion of the $2 trillion in his tax cuts went to the top 1/10 of 1%. That's what I'm talking about eliminating, not all the tax cuts that are out there. And by the way, if you just take a look, we reduced the corporate tax rate from 35%, and Democrats and Republicans who were in office thought it should come down to 28%. He reduced it to 21%. You have 91 out of the Fortune 500 companies not paying a single solitary penny. If you raise the corporate tax just back to 28%, which is a fair tax, you'd raise $1.3 trillion by that one act. If you made sure the people making over 400 grand paid what they did in the Bush administration, 39.6%, you would raise another, it goes up to, let me get you the exact number here, about another $92 billion. So you can raise a lot of money to be able to invest in things that can make your life easier. Make you change your standard of living by making sure you have affordable health care, by making sure you're in a situation where you're able to send your kid to school, and if you have a student debt, you can deal with it, making sure that your home, you can pay your mortgage. You got 20 million people right now.
Mr. Vice President, let me press you on that, though.
Sure.
You're going to raise the corporate.
By the way, if you'll notice, like, George Stephanopoulos is pushing Biden on every single point, even favorable or unfavorable. George is going after him on a second point and on detail.
Actually going to raise taxes on the wealthy. Is it wise to do even that when the economy is as weak as it is right now? Another 900,000 people.
That's a great question. Moody's did an analysis of my detailed analysis of my tax plan and my economic plan. They said, I will in 4 years, Moody's, Wall Street, said I will create 18.6 million new jobs, good-paying jobs, number one. Number two, and I'll increase, the GDP will grow by $1 trillion more than it would under Trump, and 7 million more jobs than under Trump. And the reason is when you allow people to get back in the game and have a job, everything moves. Everything moves. Right now, you got the opposite. You had last year, during this pandemic, you had the wealthiest billionaires in the world, in the nation. They made another $700 billion. $700 billion. He talks about a V-shaped recovery. It's a K-shaped recovery. If you're on the top, you're going to do very well. And the other thing and if you're at the bottom, or you're in the middle or the bottom, your income is coming down. You're not getting a raise. I don't know what you do. You may get a raise. Hope you're a billionaire. But all kidding aside, but it's about growing the economy. And George, the way out, the reason why I'm so optimistic about economic recovery, more than I've ever been, is we have these 4 crises happening all at once, and one helps the other. For example, we're going to invest a great deal of that money into infrastructure. And to a green infrastructure. We're going to put 500,000 charging stations on new highways we're building and old highways we're building. We're going to own...
By the way, the federal government adding those charging stations is justified entirely under a singular budget move because of the fleet that he intends to shift to a green fleet. So by using, you know, all the vehicles that the federal government uses, having American-built electric cars as the primary vehicle in all these postal vehicles, transport vehicles, all the sedans that you see government workers arriving in, buses, like just people movers, shuttles, things that they use all over the place on military bases, between facilities, and like everything from the IRS to the FBI to the any federal group that interacts with the local governments. They all have cars, they all have vehicles, they have vans and all kinds of stuff. You transfer that, you make those all electric, you're going to need a superstructure as far as charging stations to charge them. The difference is in the old days, they used to just make those available to the, only to the government workers. So they would be on, those charging stations would be on lots. It was an attempt by the Republicans to limit the viability of the technology and slow it down. Whereas the Democrats have always been pushing, including Biden, and it's part of their plan, is to move those charging stations off of, secure sites and the same parking lots like you would have them at a Hertz lot. Move them out and have them be publicly available, finance and allow people to, if you own a gas station, add those charging stations through funding from the government, and then you pay tax on people who use them and that kind of stuff.
Electric market. You know as well as I do from your days, in the old days, where the president spends about $600 billion a year on government contracts. Everything from making sure they have aircraft carriers to automobile fleets for the in the United States. If you and it's not violation of any international trade agreement, made in America. If you actually insist that.
Yeah, this is one of the great things about his plan versus what Trump is talking about and the whole Made in America thing that they have. I mean, it's a sieve. The Trump Made in America plan is garbage because it has all these loopholes and outs. That's why he's still got a Chinese-made flag pin on his jacket, because he buys stuff in bulk from these things. They allow them a workaround or an out. The federal government can say, no, it's worth it overall, and it infuses a certain amount into the economy. If you have a factory here in the United States making those things, even if you're paying a couple pennies more, you're getting that money back in taxes largely. It expands the manufacturing base. It improves the social structure, and you're not just funneling money overseas and getting lead paint flag pins for everybody. Would I consider getting an electric car? Absolutely. My next car, I want my next car to be a Tesla or equivalent.
Whatever that product is, made in America, including the material that goes into the product. It's estimated we're going to...
Yeah, they don't... Oh, that's the other thing I was talking about. So if you decide that you're going to buy, you're going to say Made in America gets a tax break. Other countries view that as a tariff. So if, you're giving your own stuff, it's why Trump is attacking Canada's dairy industry, right, for protecting themselves against Wisconsin's dairy industry. But if you do it just for the usage of your government, no matter what the materials are or what the stuff inside it is, that's not tariff related. So every bit of material that's used in infrastructure, building a super grid, building an electrical grid that's, a smart grid, putting in electrical charging stations by government fiat to allow that their vehicles, even if they put them out in public, all the materials, the plastics, the electronics, the shaping of that, made in the United States, is not tariffed against other equivalent stuff that's made for other purposes.
Create somewhere between another 4 and 6 million jobs just by doing that. But what's happening now? Under his trade policy, a lot of this is going overseas. You get a benefit from going overseas if you have much of it being made overseas. So if you send it overseas, you get a 10% tax increase on your on the product. If you make it in America and you bring it back, you get a 10% growth. If you bring back a company and you're going to open up an old facility, you get a 10% tax credit for all you invested. That actually works, George.
So there's not going to be any delay on the tax increases?
No, well, I got to get the votes. I got to get the votes. That's why, you know, the one thing that I have this strange notion. We are a democracy. Some of my Republican friends and some of my Democratic friends even occasionally say, well, if you can't get the votes by executive order, you're going to do something. Things you can't do by executive order unless you're a dictator. We're a democracy. We need consensus.
Got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
I hope I answered your question.
Like, I mean, honestly, talking to a Republican, not talking down to him, talking about getting the votes.
The people of the United States.
Nice, Gonzo. That sounds awesome.
In order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty.
One of the biggest parts that's always missing, when we go establish justice and more perfect union, they love that. And common defense, yeah, military, general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our pride. Okay. Ensure domestic tranquility. You swear an oath on the Constitution. Ensure domestic tranquility. Think about that as a fundamental factor of your job.
And our posterity do ordain.
I can't hydrate. I don't have a beverage. Hold on. I'll let this play. Oh wait, no, because then they'll play a commercial, and then I'll get busted and all that kind of stuff. Okay, hold. Talk amongst yourself. I'm going to run upstairs and get a beverage for myself and return to be with you in just a moment. I adore you. Okay, I'll be right back. Good God. And this is me walking to the fridge. What do we have? How about we cleanse ourselves? That would be good after the Trump nonsense. We'll just, I think that's a good way to go, is drinking some this is water, maple syrup, lemon, and cayenne. Check this out. It's spicy, but it's good for you, and it's very hydrating. And I'm not bringing anyone Mountain Dew. It's not happening. Has anyone asked Amy about hysterectomies? No, I don't think so. So look at these followers, and thanks. Oh, redeeming the hydrate. Thanks, guys. Yeah, you guys can redeem your channel points, because if you watch a lot, you get channel points, and you can ask me to do stuff. That's the whole thing. These are the Suja ones. They're nice. Oh, cayenne pepper. Woof. Lovely. You guys are beautiful. All right, here we go. Wow.
Constitution for the United States of America. This special edition of 2020 will return in a moment.
Won't it now? Here we go. Back up.
Welcome to Disney Plus.
All right.
Quarantine going?
Yeah, guys, sign up for Disney Plus and watch Lab Rats. I'm just saying.
The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. From the Constitution Center in Philadelphia, here again, George Stephanopoulos.
This is way more calm than the voiceover.
Welcome back to our town hall with Joe Biden. We're going to get a question now from Cedric Humphreys.
By the way, nice set. It just screams town hall. It doesn't look at all like a launch platform from lab rats.
Student from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, progressive Democrat.
I have Disney.
Don't
Why lab
jump,
rats?
Cedric.
Because it's my
I'll tell you right
show.
up there.
I'll be okay. Thank you, George. And good evening, former Vice President Biden. Many people believe that the true swing demographic in this election will be black voters under the age of 30. Not because they'll be voting for Trump, but because they won't vote at all. I myself have had this exact same conflict. So my question for you then is, besides you ain't black, what do you have to say to young black
cold-blooded
voters who see voting for you as further participation in a system that continually fails to protect them?
Well, I say, first of all, as my buddy John Lewis said, it's a sacred opportunity to right to vote. You can make a difference. If young black women and men vote, you can determine the outcome of this election. Not a joke. You can do that. And the next question is, am I worthy of your vote? Can I earn your vote? And the answer is, there's two things I think that I care, and I've demonstrated I care about my whole career. One is, in addition to dealing with a criminal justice system to make it fair and make it more decent, we have to be able to put black Americans in a position to be able to gain wealth, generate wealth. And so you look at what that entails. It entails everything from early education. That's why I'm supporting making sure that we in Title I schools, as you know, schools with the least tax base to be able to support their schools. I increased the funding for them from $15 to $45 billion. That allows every teacher in that school to make up to $60,000. And the problem now is they're leaving the schools. They're not there. We're short about 1.5 million teachers, 1.25 million teachers. Number two, every 3-, 4-, and 5-year-old will go to school, not daycare, school. And what all the great universities, including the one you've gone to, or went to, in fact, talks about in the last 8 years, what's happened. What happens when you let them go to school, they make up rapidly whatever
deficits,
shortcoming they had in terms of their education prior to that. They have not heard as many words spoken, et cetera, et cetera. What happens is that the studies show that 58% will increase by 58% their chance of going all through 12 years of school and going through successfully. We'll also provide for the ability to bring in social workers and school psychologists. We have one school psychologist in America now for every 1,507 kids. It should be 1 to 500, not just in schools that are poor, but in all schools. Because we learned that, for example, drug abuse doesn't cause mental illness. Mental illness causes drug abuse, the failure to get hold of people and deal with their anxieties. In addition to that, I provide for $70 billion for HBCUs for them to be able to have the wherewithal to do what other universities can do because they don't have the kind of foundational support they need. And so that would allow them, for example, like we did in our administration, the president allowed me to go down and we awarded a cybersecurity laboratory, ability to compete for a cybersecurity laboratory. The federal government spends billions of dollars a year on universities because they're the best kept secret or where most of the major inventions come out of. And so that school now will be able to produce young black women and men who are going to go into a field of the future that's burgeoning, cybersecurity. And that's what's going to help a great deal. In addition to that, if you're a young man about to graduate or you graduated from school and you want to own your first home well, it's awful hard to get the money, and depending on the background, what your economic background is, to get a down payment. So we're going to guarantee first-term home buyers a $15,000 down payment for first-term home buyers. In addition to that, what all the studies now show, and I've been arguing this for a long time, is young black entrepreneurs are just as successful as white entrepreneurs or anyone else given a shot. But you can't get the money. Where do you go to get the startup money? So what President Obama and I did, we had a program where we took $1.5 billion and we invested it in all the SBAs around the country, in the state SBAs, small business associations, and that generated $30 billion came off the sideline, because if you have a guarantee of $200,000 for your new startup enterprise, young entrepreneur, you're going to be able to attract, if it's government money as a guarantee, you'll be able to attract another $100,000. It generated $30 billion. Well, I'm changing that program, and I'll get this done without much trouble, I believe, in the Congress, from from $1.5 million to $30 billion to $30 billion. That'll take $300 billion off the sideline and grow, because you know. And for example, if you, in fact, and I were the same age, and we split our differences and we were the same age, and we went to the same builder to buy us each the same home. But my home was in a white neighborhood on one side of a highway, and yours is in a black neighborhood. Same exact home. Your home will start off being valued 29% less.
Yeah, we're playing the Biden one at this point. Yeah, I could use that. Because my watch died. It's upstairs. There. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Oh yeah, I put the rest of them in there in front of that TV, because I also put the DVD player in there as well. Hi, Summer just dropped in to say hello. Yeah, hold on, I can fix that. Hold on, let me see. My computer is laggy because I've got everything up and running. And by the way, thanks for everybody who's still sticking around. This one's a lot faster to get through because there's not as much commentary and the like. Yeah, he just. Mm-hmm. There we go. Now the lights are on in there. It should be, in theory. So you won't. Yeah, look at that. Technological magic. Thanks, babe. Is it lit? Okay, good. I'm going a little nuts with the hue lights.
It's in my home.
Oh yes, I will put that link up in my Twitter feed. It was down. Twitter was down.
Your insurance for that home will be
okay. My son and I are watching Lab Rats. Excellent.
Higher. You'll be taxed more for it. We've got to end this. That's what got me involved in politics in the first place, a thing called redlining. We can change so much, that we can do so much to change the circumstances to give people a real opportunity.
Cedric, did you hear what you needed?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just saying, do you hear what you needed to hear?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot more if you're going to hang around afterwards. I'll tell you more.
Okay.
Let's get it. No, but I really mean it. It is the key. Look, this is the way every other. How do most, like my dad, he lost his job up in Scranton. And it took him 3 years to be able to move down to Delaware, to Claymont, Delaware, a little steel town, and send us home to our grandpop to live with him. We finally got back. We lived in apartments, became 6 and 8 housing much later. It wasn't. It was just normal apartments. But it took him 5 years to be able to buy a home. Well, we bought a 3-bedroom home with 4 kids and a grandpop living with us, but it accumulated wealth. You build up wealth. That's how middle-class folks make it. They build up wealth. Then he was able to borrow a little against that to be able to help us get to school, those kinds of things. It's about accumulating wealth. And you're behind an 8 ball. The vast majority of people of color are behind an 8 ball. And it's the same way what's going on now with all this money that's been voted. What's happened? You go to the bank if you're a black businessman, and the president fired the only inspector general to oversee all this help coming from the Congress. And what happens? You go in and they say, do you have an account here? No. Do you have a credit card with this? No. Have you borrowed from us before? No. We bail these suckers out. They're not liable for any of the money, but they still won't run it. They still won't lend it to you. We got to change that. It's about accumulating wealth.
I want to get another question in here from Angelica.
Which is, by the way, not exactly what that guy was expecting as an answer. He was kind of, you could tell with the whole "you ain't black" quoting that back to Biden, where he was coming from.
No, not at all. Garnet Valley, Pennsylvania.
Hi.
Republican who voted for President Trump last time.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Vice President Biden. Nice to meet you. What's your view on the crime bill that you wrote in 1994, which showed prejudice against minorities? Where do you stand today on
No, it didn't.
that?
Well, first of all, things have changed drastically. That crime bill went and voted. The Black Caucus voted for it. Every black mayor supported it across the board. And it didn't. The crime bill itself did not have mandatory sentences except for 2 things. It had 3 strikes and you're out, which I voted against in the crime bill. But it had a lot of other things in it that turned out to be both bad and good. I wrote the Violence Against Women Act. That was part of it. The assault weapons ban and other things that were good. What I was against was giving states more money for prison systems that they could build, state prison systems. And you have 93 out of every 100 people in jail now is in a state prison, not in a federal prison, because they built more prisons. I also wrote into that bill a thing called drug courts. I don't believe anybody should be going to jail for drug use. They should be going into mandatory rehabilitation. We should be building rehab centers to have these people housed. We should wipe out, we should decriminalize marijuana, wipe out the record so you can actually say in honesty, have you ever been arrested for anything? You can say no, because we're going to pass a law saying there is no background that you have to reveal relative to the use of marijuana. And so there's a lot of things, but in addition to that, we got to change the system. I joined with a group of people in the House.
I've told you guys a bunch or whatever, and this gets overlaid on it. Most people just hear crime bill, and they just hear the number of incarcerations going up and all that stuff. I've talked about this a bunch, but the VICAP and the National Fingerprinting Database both went online in 1993 at like nationwide. They worked out all the kinks over the next 6 years, and everybody got used to using it. And so between 1993 and 1999, the prisons started to fill up, not with first-time offenders or low-rung criminals, but with people who had committed crimes across state lines, given different names, and the fingerprints finally lined up, and they were like, oh, this guy isn't just being accused of rape here in Franklin County. He was accused of rape and convicted of a rape in Harrisburg, West Virginia, and in South Carolina, and then when he was down in Florida, and then we have his record from, we've got fingerprints that were found at the scene of a sexual assault in Texas. And then they put that all together, and that guy goes to jail for a long time. And the stack of people that gets caught in that, who stay in jail longer because of the severity of their crimes, fills up the number of prison beds.
To provide
that was the single biggest reason for the rise in the number of people in jail, was VICAP and the fingerprint database.
We're changing the system from punishment to rehabilitation. Along with a guy named Arlen Specter, who you may remember, I wrote the Second Chance Act.
But in the meantime, an awful lot of people were jailed for minor drug crimes after the
Exactly.
But state jails, jailed. They weren't imprisoned. They weren't put in a federal prison. Didn't have anything to do with the prisons. Those are states that are locking people up for draconian drug laws.
Right. Was it a mistake to support it?
Yes, it was. But here's where the mistake came. The mistake came in terms of what the states did locally.
Right.
What we did federally.
You had to put more limits on there, and they wrote the bill with the presentation. And we're talking about federal crimes and federal statutes, and across state lines. And what states did was that they decided that a single offender they were going to use the same system of locking people up. Like, they bust you for 2 robberies in their state, and there's a difference between somebody who lives in a state, grows up in an area, over the course of their life robs 2 places, has bad run-ins with the law, but then can be rehabilitated. Doesn't have to be in there as long. But there's a difference between somebody who moves from another state because they committed a robbery, and then they get caught in another state doing a robbery. They cross state lines in that process. That person, for all the justice system in this one state knows, is that they were guilty of another robbery, so we're looking at both of these robberies. And there may be other state situations where this person may have continued to do this, unlike a local. And they started applying the locals the same criminal statute and idea that they would use across state lines.
We said it was, and you remember, George, it was all about the same time for the same crime. What I had done as chairman of the Judiciary Committee, took the 10 circuit courts of appeals, took some really brilliant lawyers working for me in judiciary. We did a study, and we determined what happens if, for the first, second, third offense, for any crime in the criminal justice system, at the federal level, if you're a black man, it's the first time you committed robbery. How long would you go to jail on average? If you're a white man, how long? Black man would go to jail on average 13 years. White man, 2 years. I go down the list of every single crime. So we set up a sentencing commission. We didn't set the time. Every single solitary maximum was reduced in there. But what happened was it became the same time for the same crime. So it said you have to serve between 1 and 3 years. It ended up becoming much lower. Black folks went to jail a lot less than they would have before, but it was a mistake.
Let me ask another follow-up on the crime bill. It also funded 100,000 police back in 1994. You've often said that more cops clearly mean less crime.
Yeah, it did. It did. There was a huge spike in crime in 92, 93. They put 100,000 more cops on the street. Crime went down.
Still believe that?
Yes, if in fact they're involved in community policing, not jump squads. For example, when we had community policing.
Here's the thing. I mean, I know Stephanopoulos is doing these push questions. I don't mind. I don't have a problem with him being, you know, needling Biden or trying to push him or making him answer hard questions. Biden's not having a problem with it. He's absolutely capable of doing it. It's really nice. Not getting mad. He's being very gentlemanly. But Stephanopoulos just asked a question that he himself knows the answer to.
From the mid-90s on till Bush got elected, what happened? Violent crime actually went down precipitously. Remember the significant rise in violent crime that was occurring in the late 80s into the 90s. It went down, and fewer African Americans were arrested because you had the requirement. The cops didn't like it. They didn't like the community policing because you had to have two people in a vehicle. They had to get out of their cars. They had to introduce themselves to who owned the local liquor store, who owned the local grocery store, who was the woman on the corner. And what they would do, George, they'd actually go and give people their phone numbers. A cop would give the phone number. So if Nellie Smith was on the second floor where drug deals took place and things happened below her, her apartment, she could call and say, it's Millie, and there's something going on here. And they'd never reveal it was her because they know if she knew that, in fact, they'd never report the crime. She'd never report. So it actually started to come down. What happened? They eliminated the funding for community policing. Community policing doesn't mean more people coming in up-armored Humvees and swarming like that. When they did, it turned out that by the time we got to the late 90s, the crime had come down so much, and the mayors and everybody asked the question, where do you want me to spend the money? They say, well, only 1% thought violent crime was a problem. It was as high as 22%.
Right now we have a systemic problem. How do you get the kind of policing, prevent the kind of policing?
You have to change the way in which they police. One of the things I'm going to do.
He just answered it. Community policing.
George, is set up a national study group made up of cops, social workers, as well as made up of the black community and the brown community to sit down in the White House and over the next year come up with significant reforms that need to take place within communities. You have to bring them together. One of the things I've observed is, you know, the neighborhood I grew up in Claymont, you either became a cop, a firefighter, or a priest. I wasn't qualified much to do any one of them. But here's the deal, all kidding aside, most cops don't like bad cops.
Correct.
They don't like it.
That's correct.
And so what happens is they get intimidated into not reporting. So one of the things we do is there has to be transparency available. We have to be able to go in at the federal level, be able to go in and check out whether or not there's systematic problems within police departments. If in fact
that's what the COPS program was, the Obama-Biden administration put together, and of course Trump got rid of it, and if he hadn't, George Floyd would probably be alive.
Cop needs to be tried. It's not the prosecutor in the community, in the district where they are. You got to go outside the community to get another prosecutor to come in and handle the crime. There's a lot of things we've learned, and it takes time, but we can do this. You can ban chokeholds, but beyond that, you have to teach people how to de-escalate circumstances. De-escalate. So instead of anybody coming at you and the first thing you do is shoot to kill, you shoot them in the leg. There's ways you have to do more background checks in terms of whether or not the person coming in passes certain psychological tests. And the last thing I'll say, and I'm sorry but it's really...
Biden's coming out as for pro-winging people.
I think really, really important is you have to be in a position where you are able to...
The COPS program initially was a Clinton administration program, which was killed by Bush. The Obama administration put their own program in called the COPS program. I'm sure there's a lot of overlap, but...
Identify the things that have to change, and one of the things that has to change is so many cops get called into circumstances where somebody is mentally off, like what happened not long ago with that guy with the knife. That's why we have to provide within police departments psychologists and social workers to go out with the cops on those calls, some of those 911 calls, to de-escalate the circumstance, to deal with talking them down. But we can't. Cops are kind of like school teachers now. You know, a school teacher has to know everything from how to handle hunger in a household, as well as how to teach you how to read. Well, cops don't have that breadth, and there's a lot of things we can do. We shouldn't be defunding cops. We should be mandating.
Yeah, I agree, Gonzo. I see that all the time. Aiming to shoot center mass, which is all military training. They're all military shooters teaching the cops how to shoot, which is a big problem.
The things that we should be doing within police departments and make sure there's total transparency.
Got to take another quick break. We'll be right back.
I don't know the answer to your question, but...
Yeah, you did.
ABC News, straightforward. Tomorrow,
Jumping forward. You guys all right? You hanging out? You having a good time?
Other officers of the United States. From the Constitution Center in Philadelphia, here again, George Stephanopoulos.
Thanks for hanging out. Glad you could be
the
here.
Supreme Court is our next topic. The questioner, Nathan
Hi, folks.
Osborne of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Democrat.
Hi, George, Mr. Vice President.
Hey, Nathan.
Our country's first Supreme Court gave its first rulings just 2 blocks from here, from 1791 to 1800, and it's become more polarized since then. Merrick Garland didn't get a hearing for all of 2016, and Amy Coney Barrett's being pushed through at the last minute, even though millions have already voted. So what do you think about ideas from people like Pete Buttigieg and others to put in place safeguards that will help ensure more long-term balance and stability? And what do you say to LGBTQ Americans and others who are very worried right now about erosions of their rights and our democracy as a whole?
Well, let me start the last point, work my way back. I think there's great reason to be concerned. I was on the road most of the time during these hearings, so I didn't hear many of them. I just got the recaps when I'd get in late at night. I've been going around the country, Florida, and anyway. And but my reading online, what the judge said was she didn't answer very many questions at all. And I don't even think she has laid out much of a judicial philosophy in terms of the basis upon which she thinks are there unenumerated rights in the Constitution and the rest. So, number one. So I think there's great reason to be concerned for the LGBT community, something I've fought very hard for a long time to make sure there's equality across the board.
Let's be really clear. Biden got out over his skis with the Obama administration, came out for gay marriage before anybody else did.
2, I think that also health care overall is very much in jeopardy as a consequence of the president's going to go directly after this election, directly to the Supreme Court within a month to try to get Obamacare wiped out after 10 million people have already lost their insurance from their employer and wants to take 20 million people out of the system as well, plus 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. So there's a lot at stake.
And the interesting thing is there's a big danger of Trump doing this after he loses just out of sour grapes. Like he's just gonna, all the stories we hear about, supposedly, the Obama White House wrecking things when they left, just to be mean, which was all a big story. Nonsense. But you could see Trump doing that very thing.
I don't think it's appropriate. I think the Constitution implies. There's no provision in the Constitution. My problem is I made a mistake at teaching constitutional law for 21 years and the separation of powers. The Constitution implies that the way the people have a right to determine who's going to be on the court is how they vote for their senators and their presidents. We seek the advice and consent of the Senate and the
president's president for all 4 years, isn't he?
No, he is. But once an election begins, by implication, it is inconsistent with the constitutional principles, in my view. You get disagreement among scholars on this. But I believe it's inconsistent when millions of people already voted to put someone on the court. I think it should have been held until this election is over, see what the makeup of the Senate is going to be. If the president wins this election, he should be able to go
How about
forward.
that question of expanding the court? Here's what you said exactly 1 year ago tonight at a Democratic debate. You said, I would not get into court packing. I would not pack the court. Court. That's not what you're saying now. Is the nomination of Judge Barrett reason enough to rethink your position?
What is the nomination of what I wanted to do, George? You know, if I had answered the question directly, then all the focus would be on what's Biden going to do if he wins, instead of on is it appropriate what is going on now. And it should stay, this is the thing that the president loves to do, always take our eye off the ball. What's at stake? One of the things Pete has suggested is.
Yeah, so if, that's what he's been saying all along, is that if I tell you I'm for it or against it, it becomes a debate about whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing, and whether the Biden administration would do this and would affect, you know, the ads made against him and all that kind of stuff, when it's not really even part of the argument. The argument is what he's doing right or wrong? Are Republicans hypocrites?
There's a number of constitutional scholars have suggested as well that there are at least 4 or 5 options that are available to determine whether or not you can change the way in which the court lifetime appointment takes place, consistent, arguably, with the Constitution. I have not been a fan of court packing, because I think it just generates what will happen. Whoever wins, it just keeps moving in a way that is inconsistent with what is going to be manageable.
So you're still not a fan?
Well, I'm not a fan. I didn't say it depends on how this turns out, not how he wins, but how it's handled. How it's handled. But there's a number of things that are going to be coming up, and there's going to be a lot of discussion.
Yeah, you got to scare the Republicans a little bit so that some of them maybe vote against her or agree to hold the vote. I mean, they're going to rush it through. They think he's going to lose. They think Trump is losing, and they won't have another shot at this.
Other alternatives as well.
Isn't the SCOTUS issue usually held after the primary start? Yes.
What does that mean, how it's handled? How will that determine whether you're for expanding?
For example, if there's actually real live debate on the floor, if people are really going to be able to have a time to go through this. You know, I don't know anybody who's gone on the floor and you know, that's been a controversial justice in terms of fundamentally altering the makeup of the court that's gone through in a day, kind of thing. I mean, it depends on how much they rush this. And you think about it, George. Here you got a lot of people not being able to pay their mortgage, not being able to put food on the table, not being able to keep their business open, not being able to do anything to deal with what's going on in terms of the economy as a consequence of COVID. And
Democrat congressional candidate Jeanine Lake was shot at today in Muncie, Indiana. Was it related to politics, or?
They have no time to deal with that, but they have time to rush this through.
Well, right now it looks like they're going to have a vote around Halloween. So if they vote on it before the election, you are open to expanding the court?
I'm open to considering what happens from that point on.
You know, you said so many times during the campaign, all through the course of your career, it's important to level with.
Yeah, but you don't give away your cards or your strategy, dipshit.
But George, if I say, no matter what answer I gave you, if I say it, that's the headline tomorrow. It won't be about what's going on now, the improper way they're proceeding.
But don't voters have a right to know where you stand?
They do have a right to know where they stand. They'll have a right to know where I stand before they vote.
So you'll come out with a clear position before Election Day?
Yes.
Yeah, because they're going to vote or not vote before the election.
Depending on how they handle this. But look, what you should do...
Yeah, because he's trying to scare the shit out of them.
...is you got to make sure you vote. And vote for a senator who, in fact, reflects your general view on constitutional interpretation. And vote for
the rest of her campaign earlier on, she was live streaming about it and waiting for police to come take statements.
Who you think is more in line with you. And if you oppose the position that I would not have appointed her, but if you oppose my position, vote for Trump. Vote for a Republican who shares that view. But that's your opportunity to get involved in lifetime appointments that have presidents come and go. Justices stay and stay and stay.
We have a question from a Republican, Andrew Lewis. I guess a disaffected Republican. You cast a write-in vote for John Kasich in 2016. You're going to vote against President Trump this year.
And John's writing in for me, by the way.
I know that. Mr. Vice President.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Vice President, my father, Drew Lewis, served as Secretary of Transportation under President Ronald Reagan in his first term.
Oh, yeah. I'll be darned.
And some of his closest allies and friends were Democrats, including House Speaker Tip O'Neill and Senator Ted Kennedy. Sadly, today we have highly partisan and dysfunctional governance, and I believe President Trump is primarily responsible for creating this toxic environment.
You think?
As president, how will you avoid the temptation to exact revenge and instead take the high road and attempt to restore bipartisanship, civility, an honor to our democracy.
As written by a fellow who won the Pulitzer Prize for a book he wrote about the presidency, he said, you know, I doubt whether Biden is really Irish. He doesn't hold a grudge. In politics, grudges don't work. They make no sense. I really mean it. I have never, and the second point I'd make is, everybody talks about, yeah, Joe, when you were a senator and a chairman of foreign relations or chairman of judiciary, you got a lot of things done. You're able to cross the aisle, but the days are changed. When you're vice president, you got a lot done, but it can't happen anymore. It can. We got to change the nature of the way we deal with one another. And it starts off by the way your father was and Tip was and others. You don't question another man or woman's motive. You can question their judgment, but not their motive. We badly need an infrastructure bill. Well, what happens? I stand up and I say, you know, we need an infrastructure bill, Senator, but I tell you what, you're in the pocket of the cement industry. But let's see what we can do. You can't get anywhere. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. I learned that lesson a long time ago. I've never, even when it's obvious on its face what the motive is, stick to the subject and listen to the other guy. Listen.
By the way, I would like to note that at no time during Trump's thing did we see him walk on or off or stand up. He stayed in the exact same position the entire time he was there. Biden just stood up. And I know that shouldn't be a big miracle, but yeah.
I will be doing as if I'm elected president, the first thing, and not a joke. And you can ask if they tell you your dad's old friends on the Republican side. I'm going to pick up the phone and call them and say, let's get together. We got to figure out how we're going to move forward here. Because there's so many things we really do agree on. And with Trump out of the way, the vindictiveness of a president going after Republicans who don't do exactly what he says gets taken away. There's going to be, I promise you, between 4 and 8 Republican senators are going to be willing to move on things where there's bipartisan consensus. Last example I'll give you.
Hi, Nikki B.
Thanks
for joining us.
After Trump had been elected, named the next president, wasn't sworn in yet, I've been working on a thing called a bill relating to cancer cures, okay? And it was called the Cancer Moonshot. And I worked with a number of Democrats and Republicans, and we had a bill that was about $9 billion that made significant increases in research and development on cancer alternatives, NIH, and particularly specific cancer initiatives. And we only had, at the time, I think it was 111 or 114, whatever it was, votes in the House. I don't hold me the exact number. And we had fewer than 40 in the Senate. But after he was elected, I got those people together as vice president, and we sat down and we worked it out. And we ended up getting it passed 396 votes in the House and 94 votes in the Senate. And at the end of the day, because it had to do with the Biden cancer moonshot I've been working on, Mitch McConnell stood up, and I was presiding officer, and moved to name the bill after my deceased son, Bo, who had just died. So there are ways to bring this together.
But how about the question of political accountability? And is there some tension between that and bringing people?
Why aren't you going to lock him up? Why can't you chant lock him up? Why did I get the boring one? Why is Savannah Guthrie getting all the ratings because she's interviewing a wet cat covered in firecrackers, and I've got to be here for a real policy decision? This is depressing for me. My mom would be so upset.
Together, you know, Robert Mueller laid out a lot of evidence of possible obstruction of justice by President Trump. What would a Biden Justice Department do with that evidence?
What the Biden Justice Department will do is let the Department of Justice be the Department of Justice. Let them make the judgments of who should be prosecuted. They are not my lawyers. They're not my personal lawyers.
So you're not going to rule it in or rule it out?
I'm not going to rule in or out. I'm going to hire really first-rate prosecutors and people who understand the law, like Democrat and Republican administrations have had, and let them make the judgments. But turning this into a vehicle for as if it's your own law firm, you don't own that Justice Department. You pick the best people you can, and you hope that what they're going to do is they're going to enforce the law as they see it. But can you remember any Republican president going out there, or former Democratic president, go find that guy and prosecute him? Ever hear that? Or, by the way, I'm being sued because a woman's accused me of rape. Represent me. Represent me. Personally represent me in the state of New York on my not allowing my tax returns. What's that all about? What is that about?
Got to take another break. We'll be right back.
The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and together with the Vice President, chosen for the same term.
If Trump was doing this town hall and he saw this graphic put up after everything he said, he would be angered that they were mocking him. He would go, "This is a very nasty graphics department you have."
Again, George.
I've been there. I've seen that.
Stephan.
Whenever I do Helium in Philadelphia, is one of my favorite clubs. I can't wait to go back there again. Love you guys. Me and whoever's opening, Chris and I used to go all the time. Charlene and I have been a couple times. It's usually fairly cold because I take the crap dates.
And welcome back to our
Nice.
town
Can't
hall with
stop
former Vice President Joe Biden. We're going to look at the...
By the way, everybody, big round of applause for Can't Stop Lying. I mean, honest to God, solid work, my friend.
Environment right now. We're going to get a question from Michelle Elisen from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a businesswoman, a social worker. You're a Republican who's voted for Democrats, but you're not sure what you're going to do this time around. Correct?
Correct. Greetings, former Vice President Biden.
Hello.
Thank you, Mrs. Dollars. In a 2012 report of the...
What was the woman in, God damn it, in Police Academy?
University of
Had a really quiet voice, and then she finally found her voice and screamed, "Get on the floor!" Like, okay.
Pittsburgh's Institute of Politics. Fracking was discussed and its possible implications for the waterways from the Commonwealth to the Gulf. Fracking has made the population sick and killed wildlife in southwest Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and small business development centers have already begun to transition people away from fossil fuels. What industries that are not harmful to human health and the environment are you planning for southwest Pennsylvania and the nation?
Well, first of all, I make it clear I do not propose banning fracking. I think you have to make sure that fracking is in fact not emitting methane or polluting the well or dealing with what can be small earthquakes and how they're drilling. So it has to be managed very, very well, number one. Number two, what we have to do is the future rests in renewable energy. The single fastest growing energy source in the world right now, because I'm going to say something that's going to sound self-serving, but I managed the Recovery Act, and I was able to invest billions of dollars into bringing down the cost per BTU of wind and solar. So now it's cheaper than coal, it's cheaper than oil right now. And it has great, great promise. And it's also the fastest growing employer in the energy industry. And so there are a number of things that I would do immediately. Number one, there are well over 100,000 wells that are left uncapped in the region. We could hire 128,000 of these people who are working in the industry to cap these wells and get a good salary doing it now, number one. Number two, we should be moving toward
cleaning up the messes of corporations who claim that they make a lot of money as profit, even though they leave the cleanup part of it to the taxpayer.
Finding the new technologies that are going to be able to deal with carbon capture. So ultimately, as a transition, we moved to a net zero emission of carbon, that we're still going to be able to use, if we find the right technology, some gas to be able to, if we can carbon capture. And I think we're going to be able to move in a direction where by the year 2035, we'll be able to have net zero emissions of carbon from the creation of energy creation. So we can move it by dealing with those. And every time we talk about global
hooks, thank you, Gonzo. Yes, it's hooks.
Warming or the environment.
We love hooks.
The president thinks it's it's a joke, and I think it's jobs. Because what we're going to have happen is, you'll be able to see now, as I started to say before, I, as president, am going to invest that $600 billion we spend in government contracts only on those things that, in fact, also are not only made in America, but building an infrastructure that's clean and new. And what we have to do is focus on the transmission of energy across the country from areas relating to solar and wind. The reason is that they have not that.
The reason is your section of Pennsylvania doesn't have enough sunlight all the time, and way up in New York, it's not going to cover it. But there's a lot of wind in Indiana, and there's a lot of sun in the plain states. And if you can keep those things flat and you got a smart grid, you can transfer that power all over the country.
Has not been mastered yet. I've met a lot of people in Silicon Valley. The battery technology is increasing significantly, so you're going to be able to have, for example, solar on your home and a battery the size this by this, as I'm showing you here, in your basement. So when the sun doesn't shine for 5 days, you still have enough energy. So we're making significant progress. The other thing we're going to do is provide an awful lot of work. It's estimated to put close to 1 million people to work by weatherizing 4 million buildings and 2 million homes, because we'll save tons and tons of energy, or like billions of barrels of energy over time, and at the same time provide significant employment and a good union wages, prevailing wages.
Let me stick on fracking for a second. You don't want to ban fracking. As you know, it's an important issue here in Pennsylvania. Not everyone buys your denial. A member of the Boilermakers Local 154, Sean.
Well, did he say it or didn't he, George?
Definitely was quoted in the New York Times today saying, you can't have it both ways. It says you can't meet your goal to end fossil fuels without ending fracking. What do you say to people like
Sure you can.
Sean, who doubt your denial because they think you want to keep that promise?
Tell them the Boilermakers overwhelmingly endorse me, okay? So the Boilermakers unions endorsed me because I sat down with them in great detail with their leadership exactly what I would do, number one. Number two, what I would do is I would stop giving tax breaks and subsidizing oil. We don't need to subsidize oil any longer, number one. We should stop that and save billions of dollars over time. What I would also do with regard to, the difference between me and the new Green Deal, they say automatically by 2030, we're going to be carbon free. Not possible.
So are you for it or against it? You say you're not for it, but in your website it says you call it a crucial framework. The Green New Deal.
My deal is a crucial framework, but not the new Green Deal. The new Green Deal calls for elimination of all non-renewable energy by 2030. You can't get there. You're going to need to be able to transition, George, to be able to...
See, George, what you just read is a voter who's voting for Trump, who read what Trump said Biden was for, and is judging Biden's plan by the standard of another plan.
Transition to get to the place where we invest in new technologies that allow us to do things that get us to a place where we get to net zero emission, including in agriculture. I've laid out a detailed plan. We should be taking the plan where we allow significant more land to be put in conservation, planting deep-rooted plants which absorb carbon from the air, and in fact pay farmers to do it. We can do things like pelletize all the chicken manure and all the horse manure and cow manure, and they can take out the methane and use it as fertilizer and make a lot of money doing it. For example, right now down in people, when I say that, they wonder what I'm talking about. The biggest carbon sink in the world is the Amazon. More carbon absorbed from the air, diminishing global warming, in the Amazon than all the carbon emitted on a yearly basis from the United States of America, from all vehicles and all means. So we have to use our imaginations.
Yeah. If we pay them to reseed huge chunks of the Amazon and pay to protect it, literally, if America just paid to, bought a section of the Amazon and sat on it, it would get us to net zero just because it would pull the carbon out of the air.
Move in the direction as well, providing for electric vehicles. Electric vehicles will save billions of gallons of oil, create, estimated, not me, Wall Street, 1 million automobile jobs. But we're lagging. We're not investing. We're not doing any of the research.
Got to take another quick break. We'll be right back.
Still talking to her.
ABC News.
It's straightforward news, even though George is asking questions from people we're not quite sure what the shit he's talking about, but okay.
Vice President. Good to be back home. I'm from.
Is America's #1 news.
Admit it.
Now.
What you need to
You need to
know
buy some
seems to
stuff
change
and get some
every
things.
day.
Go about the
what
Good
can
Morning
help you
America
feel
show.
smarter, better, happier?
Never mind.
This is GMA3. What you need to know.
Lunchtime
GMA3?
at 1
Oh, the third hour.
Eastern, 12 Central.
Just going to drag that show on into, like, basically it eats up the whole
Pacific
day.
on ABC.
Why isn't there a GMA network?
John Lennon.
Magical, brilliant, daring. John was my favorite Beatle.
Now, new interviews with those who were right there with John Lennon and his last interview. All
That was Trump saying the word brilliant.
that day.
Wow, there's life, there's hope.
The 2020 event, John Lennon, Friday night on ABC.
If he'd have stayed with his girlfriend and not gone back to Yoko, he'd be alive. Just saying.
Welcome back to our town hall with former Vice President Joe Biden. The next question comes from Mark Hoffman, Center Valley, Pennsylvania, conservative who voted for Trump in 2016.
Welcome to Pennsylvania, Mr. Vice President.
Good to be back home. I'm from Pennsylvania.
Yes, I know. Scranton, right?
Yep.
So, peace.
This is Trump's favorite guy. This is Scott Atlas's stunt double. I'm gonna just go with COVID haircut, but go for it, brother. And he's wearing a paisley tie. There may be hope.
Is breaking out all over the world. Our troops are coming home. Serbia is talking to Kosovo, and the
No, this is the idea that Trump has created peace, and therefore
Arabs and Israelis are talking peace, which I believe is a modern-day miracle. What's going on? Does President Trump's foreign policy deserve some credit?
A little, but not a whole lot. We find ourselves in a position where we're
this dude does not like that answer.
Isolated in the world than we've ever been. Our allies are our goat alone. America first has made America alone. You have Iran closer to having enough nuclear material to build a bomb. North Korea has more bombs and missiles available to it. We find ourselves where our NATO allies are publicly saying they can't count on us. We're in a situation as well where in the Far East we find ourselves in the Western Pacific, where we're isolated as well. You have.
Excuse me, Mr. Vice President. I only know the three things Trump talks about a lot. I was not aware that the rest of the world existed. Chris Kattan looks great. What are you talking about?
Japan and South Korea at odds with one another. China is making moves. So I would say we find ourselves less secure than we've been. I do compliment the president on the deal with Israel recently, but if you take a look, we're not very well trusted around the world. When 17 major nations in the world were asked who they trust more, who's the better leader, and the president came in behind both.
Sorry, Trump's hair just blew through. I'm using up all the computing power of my computer right now. I can tell. Did it freeze? Did I kill it? What happened? There we go.
And we find ourselves in a situation where he spoke to Putin 6 times, hadn't said a word to him. And NATO is on the risk of beginning to crack because they doubt our concern, whether we're there. You see what's happening in everything from Belarus to Poland to Hungary, and the rise of totalitarian regimes in the world, and as well as this president embraces all the thugs in the world. I mean, he's best friends with the leader of North Korea, sending love letters. He doesn't take on Putin in any way, and he is just he's learned the art of the steal from the art of the deal by Xi in China. So I would respectfully suggest, no, there is no plan, no coherent plan for foreign policy. You know, we've always ruled. We've been most effective as a world leader, in my humble opinion, not just by the exercise of our power, the most powerful nation in the world, but the power of our example. That's what's led the rest of the world to follow us on almost everything. He's pulled out of almost every international organization. He gets laughed at when he goes to the, literally, not figuratively, when he goes to the United Nations. I mean, it's just not, it's not about the president per se, it's about the nation and the lack of respect that's shown to us.
I want to get one more question in this segment, and it comes from Mika Hack. She's from State College, Pennsylvania.
Sorry,
this
attack
is
of the
your first
globalist.
presidential election that you're voting.
Yes.
Hi, Mika, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm the proud mom of 2 girls.
By the way, when I grew up in Kentucky, near my grandparents' house in Murray, they had 2 Swedish German mixed. It was a Swedish-German mixed family, and they had Mika and Marcia were the 2 girls that were part of the family.
8 and 10. My youngest daughter is transgender. The Trump administration has attacked the rights of transgender people, banning them from military service, weakening non-discrimination protections, and even removing the word transgender from some government websites.
Is my fan on? No, it isn't. That might be part of what our issues are. Hold on. Yeah. Although it's cool enough down here, so we'll see.
How will you, as president,
Oh, that Trump voter is not undecided, believe me.
reverse this dangerous and discriminatory agenda and ensure
By being a Democratic president?
that the lives and rights of LGBTQ people are protected under U.S. law?
I will flat out just change the law. Eliminate those executive orders, number 1. You may recall, I'm the guy who said, I was raised by a man who, I remember I was being dropped off. My dad was a high school educated, well-read man who was a really decent guy, and I was being dropped off to get an application in the center of our city, Wilmington, Delaware, the corporate capital of the world at the time. And these 2 men, I'm getting out to get an application to be a lifeguard in the African-American community because there was a big swimming pool complex. And these 2 men, well-dressed, leaned up and hugged one another and kissed one another. And I'm getting out of the car at the light, and I turned to my dad. My dad looked at me and said, Joey, it's simple. They love each other. The idea that an 8-year-old child or a 10-year-old child decides, you know, I decided I want to be transgender. That's what I think I'd like to be. It'll make my life a lot easier. There should be 0 discrimination. And what's happening is too many transgender women of color are being murdered. They're being murdered. I mean, I think it's up to now 17. Don't hold me to that number, but it's in the
last year.
Yeah.
And that's just this year. And so I promise you, there is no reason to suggest that there should be any right denied your daughter or daughters, whichever, if 1 or 2, one, your daughter, that your other daughter has a right to be and do. None, 0. And by the way, my son Beau passed away, was the Attorney General of the state of Delaware. He was the guy who got the first transgender law passed in the state of Delaware, and because of a young man who became a woman who worked for him in the Attorney General's office.
We've got one more segment coming up. Thank you.
And I'm proud of it.
I mean, look at that little extra shot afterwards, and I'm proud of him.
ABC News.
I mean, like, it's not hard, but it's really nice to watch. We're getting near the end, although, like I said, he keeps going, so.
The Vice President and the People, a special edition of 2020. Here again, George Stephanopoulos.
Wait a minute, is George the People?
And welcome back to our town hall with former Vice President Joe Biden. The next question comes from Keenan Wilson, Narberth, Pennsylvania, Democrat.
Good evening. You say that you committed to entering this race after the events of Charlottesville in 2017. I assume that that feeling that prompted you to run will not go away once the results are determined. So, hypothetically, if you lose, how will you use your platform to urge President Donald Trump and those rallying behind him towards the ideals of a more perfect union?
Yeah. What a weird question. Bless your heart, but what? I mean, how are you going to stop Donald Trump if I don't help you stop Donald Trump is the question.
Well, to be very honest with you, I think that's very hard. He is not, things have not lent themselves to him learning from what's happened, what's gone before. And instead of being chastened by being one of the few presidents, the only president to be impeached and then have a member of his own party vote to expel him, it emboldened him. So, but what I will do, hopefully I'll go back to being a professor.
Bobby Rose, what you missed was Biden's being a gentleman and an adult, and George Stephanopoulos is playing tough with him, which is fine, and Biden's handling it great, and the only person that's mad so far is an obvious Trump voter.
University of Pennsylvania, and making the case that I've been made and at the Biden Institute at the University of Delaware, focusing on these same issues relating to what constitutes decency and honor in this country. It's the thing that got me involved in public life to begin with. As a kid, I moved from Scranton, where there were no African Americans, and moved down to Claymont, Delaware, and in Delaware, we have the 8th largest black population as a percent of population. It was an epiphany for me, seeing what was going on. And I got deeply involved. I'm no great shakes. I don't mean I wasn't John Lewis. I don't mean to imply that. But it's the thing that's motivated. My dad used to have an expression, for real. He said, everyone's entitled to be treated with dignity. Everybody. And it was real. Everybody is. And so whether I'm a defeated candidate for president back teaching, or I'm elected president, it is a major element of everything that I'm about, because it reflects who we are as a nation. And it's what makes us, this is every single solitary generation. The dial has moved closer and closer and more to inclusion. And we are a country that is a country of...
That's one of the best Robin Williams impersonations by a presidential candidate I've ever seen. I know someone is saying Biden is touching his face a lot, which is bugging me. Believe me, he washes his hands.
Slaves who came here 400 years ago, indigenous people, and everyone else is an immigrant. And we're a diverse country. And unless we are able to treat people equally, we're just never going to meet our potential. But I think the American people want to see that happen. I think they're ready to see it.
Can you have a pee break? Yes, I will have the next commercial, and I'll just talk through it.
And I'll tell you one thing, if I'm elected president, you will not hear me.
You can always pause me and catch up.
Race baiting, you'll not hear me dividing, you'll hear me trying to unify. And unify bring people together. When I said I was running because I wanted to unify the country, people said, well, they were the old days. We better be able to do it again. We better be able to do it again.
Mr. Vice President, if you lose, what will that say to you about where America is today?
Well, it could say that I'm a lousy candidate and I didn't do a good job. But I think, I hope that it doesn't say that we are as racially, ethnically, and religiously at odds with one another as it appears the president wants us to be. Usually, you know, the president's, in my view, with all due respect, has been divide and conquer. The way he does better if he splits us. There's division. And I think people need hope. I think, look, George, I've never been more optimistic about the prospects for this country than I am today. And I really mean that. I think the people are ready. They understand what's at stake. And it's not about Democrat or Republican. If I get elected, you know, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I'm going to take care of those who voted against.
By the way, the book about Biden is already being written when he becomes president, and it's going to be called The American President. Like, just get used to the idea.
Against me as well as those who voted for me, for real. That's what presidents do. We got to heal this nation because we have the greatest opportunity of any country in the world to own the 21st century, and we can't do it divided.
One more break. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Disney Plus.
All right, you can go pee. Yeah, go to watch Disney Plus, Lab Rats. This is a good commercial I'm making for myself.
Lab Rats, I'll have you know, is a series I did on Disney XD, a series I'm very proud of, where I starred as the father of 3 bionic and then later 4 bionic children, and with my lovely wife on the show, Angel Parker. Hold on, since some of you may or may not know, I'll bring up graphic images of it. Let's see if we can get a family shot of all of us, something along those lines. Where are we? There we are. That's me. There's little kids. Look at me with short hair. It's amazing. Yeah. And then let's see. It should be me and here's a picture with us and Angel. This is another good picture of us. There we go. That's a superhero team. Love it. Man, I love those guys. Everybody. Such a great cast, such great people. Yeah, just awesome. Oh my God, they sell, look at this. One of these companies that sells knockoff like cosplay jackets has made a Lab Rats Leo jacket. Because later on his right arm, which I am responsible for having crushed, became bionic. It wasn't my fault, but it was, they were my kids, so that was my responsibility. Where's Angel? Hold on. Let's see. Angel Parker. Give me a second. Here we are. This is the family. This is my on-camera wife, Angel, who's the greatest. She's awesome. She's fantastic. Best TV wife I ever had. I know, only TV wife I ever had. But I was lucky enough in the casting to get to choose her. We had a casting process that went out. It was just lovely, and like it was awesome having that family together. Just beautiful people. It's so nice. And we got to be funny every day, and I mean, there's nothing greater. There really isn't. So there you go. There's the little, that's the Disney Plus ad. So the show's on Disney Plus. I hope you had enough time to pee. Okay, and now we're going back. There we go.
Oh, I expect to be there.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for your...
Hold on.
The Secret Service guy.
Tomorrow, get ready for
Yeah, the only problem with Elite Force was we only got to do the one season.
all-time high with
Good people do.
all-time low, with an amazing performance for you. Tomorrow on Good Morning America's concert series, sponsored by CarMax.
And we are wrapping up our town hall with former Vice President Joe Biden. Mr. Vice President, as you know, President Trump had a town hall meeting tonight as well. During that town hall meeting, he was asked several times whether he took a COVID test the day of your last debate. You're supposed to have another debate a week from tonight. Just 2 quick questions.
Do I get paid if you watch it now? I get residuals.
Do you expect that debate to happen? Will you demand that President Trump take a test that day and that it be negative before you debate?
Yeah, by the way, before I came up here, I took another test. I've been taking it every day, the deep test, the one they go in both. And because I wanted to be able, if I had not passed that test, I didn't want to come here and not, expose anybody. And I just think it's just decency to be able to determine whether or not you are you're clear. And it's not. I'm less concerned about me, but then the people, the guys at the cameras, the people working in the Secret Service guys you drive up with, all those people. And so yes, I believe he will do that. Look, I'm going to abide by what the commission rules call for. I was prepared to debate him remotely, which was supposed to happen, and he said he wouldn't do that, a virtual debate, or town hall. He didn't want to do that. I didn't set those rules. The commission set the rules. So whatever rules they set, and I'm confident that the Cleveland Clinic is the one overseeing it. I think they're going to not let happen what happened last time. They're going to demand that it's safe.
But you expect to be there?
Oh, I expect to be there.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for your time tonight. Thanked all the questioners here. It was really terrific questions. I think you did a service to our democracy tonight. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for interrupting their questions. And a couple of them didn't get to ask George because you needed to needle some
Back
points.
to my colleague David Muir in New York.
All right, George, thank you. So there you have it, the ABC News Town Hall with former Vice President Joe Biden. Just 19 days until the election in this country. Of course, voting already underway. More than 18 million Americans have voted. Tonight, as you heard from the Vice President there,
still
interact directly with voters, answering their questions about what matters most to them as they make this choice. His campaign feels that he shines.
Still there.
His rival Joe Biden. And the president tonight was forced to confront
individual mandate with Obamacare and then talked a little bit.
He is still opining. Commercial. Then they come back from
Joe
the commercial.
Biden, and that's his main selling point
Still there.
beyond any issue.
Rom, thank you. You heard that. Sarah Fagan, ABC News contributor, Republican strategist. Rom making the case that it won't be any particular issue or policy that comes out of this as a headline from the former vice president. Instead, the overall picture of him interacting with voters there. Do you agree?
I think he did help himself tonight, and I agree with Rom. I mean, look, Joe Biden is a very decent person. But what I also saw tonight was the conflict he faces, the balancing act he tries to do every day as the leader of the Democratic Party. We heard it. We heard it. I don't like court packing. I'm not.
Actually do respect Joe Biden for, I think, having a broader perspective, listening to all sides, and actually being willing to adjust his own thinking to the reality.
Do we see if the dude left? The other guy? All right, when they go back to another commercial. And then
The issue for
Still
Joe
there.
Biden is the gap he has to close. It isn't enough for many voters that he's not Donald Trump.
He said, I hope I answered your question to that young voter as well. Martha Raddatz, you and I have done so many debates together, but town halls are so different when you can have more of a conversation with the American voter.
Exactly right. And this is what Joe Biden loves. We'll probably all be in bed before Joe Biden is out of that hall. This was really his moment tonight, but the real test.
Do they have any post-show stuff of Trump leading the place? Is he like haranguing? All right? Are they
huge
special
mistake?
edition? They cleared the room. Okay, he's done. Yeah. That was awesome. You guys, thanks for hanging out tonight. We got through both of them. We went through the entirety of both of them. Proud day for, I think, our civics. But let's see. Are they still undecided? Yeah, a bunch of Joe loves people. It's so inspiring. It very much is. Thanks, Karine. Thank you, Norman. Thanks, GDGI go to go. G to GI go to go. I don't know how to even read that. I'll figure it out later. Somewhere in time. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for. It's a little difficult for them to go Sleepy Joe when Trump ditches out after an hour, done, and Biden sticks around and buries the needle at the end, just constantly. So thank you, the moms. And I will see you guys tomorrow. I'll be at my regular time now. Normally, like I said, the regular show time is 3 o'clock on most days. Thursdays is normally 4. We obviously pushed it later today because of these things. But I'm trying to write it closer to the number. Now, as as we progress into the campaign and there's more of these campaign events and other stuff and news stuff happens, I might, get on a little bit earlier. If I'm late, I'll tweet it out. But if I come on a little bit earlier, I'll try and give you a little bit of warning. But sometimes they'll do, like, Trump did a town hall kind of thing, or like a rally, or what was his? There's been a bunch of like interviews and other stuff that I haven't covered that are just full of all the garbage that we're used to, but also some brand new awful from him. A couple of call-ins, one on Stuart Varney. There's a couple of them. So I'll go through, and what I'll do is, more than likely, depending on when the rallies are, I'll chip away at those things until the rally starts. And then we'll get into the rallies and do what we do. And then, if I feel like skipping ahead, I might do that. But these days, the incendiary garbage he throws out, I don't want to miss anything just because we feel like we've seen it before. But yeah, anyway, so thank you. Thanks, Gonzo. Absolutely. Thank you, Connie. Thanks so much, Can't Stop Lying, for all your help too. Deborah, Destiny, Sarah, Francie, bless you guys. Thanks, Norman. Mommy Chickson, thank you. I'm glad you guys discovered Lab Rats tonight. That's not a bad thing. There's something to watch over the weekend. You can binge that. I'm also, should I recommend some, binge Lab Rats and Queer as Folk, and then we'll talk. So anyways, I adore you guys. I will see you tomorrow. I'm going to sign off. It's late. Take care of yourself and take care. Raid who? I will see if I can raid somebody. Let me see who's up that I know, because I don't know that I follow anybody. Let's see. None of my other friends are live that I follow. So yeah, so I'll set it up for next time. Night. Thanks so much. Yeah, go to bed. Take care until the next show to you two. Almost done with QAF like the 5th time. There you go. Night, guys. Yeah, it was an amazing contrast, and it was great to watch both of them, I think. So anyways, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for all the support and love and all the new patrons. Bless you. And I will see you guys tomorrow at 3 o'clock at our regular time, and we'll, shuffle around little things or whatever. But there was this like there's this 9-minute interview he did in Raleigh that's supposed to air in Durham, and it's just awful. I just caught the top of it, and I was like, okay, this is one. And then we have a couple of press gaggles where he's walking to and from helicopters, and it's just some stuff that people have missed. So I'm going to jump on those tomorrow, and then we'll do whatever rally or thing goes on. So keep us in your prayers. Doggo going to the heartworm treatment. Oh, good luck with your dog, Jess. Much love. Voila! And I will see you guys tomorrow. I don't know if this actually does it. No, I don't have that set up on there. So hold on. All right, so let me do this. And there we go. All right. Now we can sign off proper. But I will see you guys tomorrow, 3 o'clock Pacific time, PM, not AM. Don't get crazy. And take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. Do me a favor. Tomorrow, if you're on social media, if you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook or anything, things, post a compliment about somebody. It doesn't have to be me, but pick somebody like an artist you like, tag them in it, and say thank you. I'm going to do it with Danko and a couple other people, just sending them some love. Let them know, especially the ones that tour a lot and that kind of stuff that are kind of sequestered away. The more obscure, the better. You can find somebody who's, isn't getting name checked, Sure, they're your favorite band, but when's the last time you tweeted their bass player? You know what I'm saying? Do that. It would be nice. So thank you, Tracy. Glad to. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow.
I had to beat off. They're genius. They get it better than these guys that are looking at stuff.
Shut up and never say anything again as long as you live.
We have that. It's as wide as it can be.
I had to beat off.
They're not allowed to be offensive, unfortunately. And when you say per capita, there's many per capitas. It's like per capita relative to what? A lot of very bad things are happening in Nicaragua. Isn't it wonderful to allow protesting? That's amazing. How did you do that? Yosemite.
It's sportos and motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, dickheads. They all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
I felt really good almost after taking it. First Lady's doing great, and I would say fully recovered or just about fully recovered, but we are fully recovered, and I am.
Perfecto. Soon it's going to be perfecto. You're going to frack. You're going to frack. I don't read, obviously. You're going to frack. Winston Churchill stood on the rooftops in London, very calm, making speeches. Winston Churchill. Perfecto. They don't like the gas.
First Lady's doing great.
The Burmese executives. So this Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese. So we're going to get it going to a level that nobody can ever turn course on us, nobody can ever change.